on a Boston Common. They're going to be all around the state in many cities and towns. Good morning, Jim.
Thousands around the country, actually.
Thousands around the country.
I know.
Maybe the biggest ever.
Governor's going to be here in just a second, live at the library, taking our questions and yours. And if you have a question for the governor, you can either call it or text it in. The number is 877-301-8970. Or if you're here at the library and you have a question or a comment for the governor, I think it's Nicole, our colleague right there, and go over to her and tell her what you're thinking about, and she'll consider whether or not she'll have you ask a question. In the interim, here's the governor. Governor Healey, welcome. Great to see you.
Nice to see you. Good
Thank
morning,
you
Jim and
very
Marjorie.
much for coming in, Governor Healey. So let's start with something fun. I heard you were at the game last night, France versus Brazil. I guess they'd call them practice runs for the World Cup or something. Yeah. So tell us, what was it like? What was the deal?
It was great. I mean, look, the World Cup is a big deal. I love the World Cup because it really does bring people together from around the world. And we're really fortunate in Massachusetts. We're going to have 7 World Cup games, including the quarterfinal, right here. And I think it's going to be wonderful for a bunch of reasons. It's a chance for Massachusetts to show itself off, literally to the world, because we're going to have so many people coming in from all over. We've got teams that we've got a great fan base here for. I mean, yesterday was unbelievable, the Brazil-France match. The Brazilian crowd was immense. And, of course, I think Massachusetts is home to the largest Brazilian population in the country. It's going to be an economic boom for us. And I think it's going to be great. So really, it was a really positive, wonderful experience. A lot of young kids in the audience yesterday afternoon cheering in their jerseys and the spirit. The Celtics popped by, which was really great. They were there for the event, and I got to go on the field with Jason Tatum for the coin toss. I met Mbappe. You know who Mbappe is?
Oh, he's the star.
No,
I mean,
yeah, he was the
planet.
on the French team. And French team's actually home base is going to be at Bentley University during the duration.
How many hours did it take you to get there?
It didn't take hours. Actually, I got there in under an hour. Yesterday was an important run, too, because we have spent the last several months, better part of 2 years, with security planning, operational planning, transportation planning. We had trains running, extra trains running down, $30 round-trip tickets for people, so a lot of people went that way. But it was a very successful first run of that, and I'm grateful to all the people who did the work to make that happen.
Great. Our number is 877-301-8970. Before we get to your calls, you've been talking almost nonstop about energy issues and costs, and obviously the ratepayers care a lot about it. I'm unclear about one thing, when you can tell us where we stand. On a television show, I think it was on Channel 5 earlier this month, I think it was, the Speaker of the House says there'll be no significant help next year for ratepayers. And about a minute and a half later, and I'm exaggerating a bit, but not by much, he says there'll be significant immediate savings. Which is it?
There will be savings. I filed an energy bill that I'd like to see get to my desk as soon as possible, because it will do things that will lower our energy costs, and that's super, super important. Just this week, I'm proud to celebrate with A.G. Campbell. This was a case that I filed at FERC years ago. We got a ruling back that says it's going to save ratepayers in Massachusetts hundreds of millions of dollars. It's a $1 billion ruling. Every day I'm focused on how do I drive down housing costs, healthcare costs, and energy costs. And I announced an executive order 2 weeks ago, and I'm proud of the team for the work on this. It basically says Massachusetts, we're all of the above, and we are going to work to deploy as much solar, battery storage, wind, hydro, demand response as quickly as we can to lower the cost of energy. We flipped the switch on hydro, remember a couple weeks ago? That's 20% of the electricity supply coming into Massachusetts. Right now, Vineyard Wind is complete, even though the Trump administration tried to stop it, and that is right now powering 400,000 homes off the coast of Massachusetts, from the coast of Massachusetts. And, we just got to continue to push away at that. But the bill I filed, here's how little things that will save people money. The bill forces utilities to go out on the market and buy energy at the cheapest rate. Right now, they're not required to do that. And they're locked into certain times when they can purchase energy. So it's almost like it doesn't matter what the cost of that energy is. They just pass it on to us, and it shows up in our bills. So there's things in that legislation that will automatically save people money. And then there's other things that we are going to be doing over time. I'm working really closely with other states. As you know, I've been working with the Canadian provinces. And I've had conversations with the White House, too, about how we get more energy into the Northeast. This isn't just a Massachusetts problem. It's a regional problem. But it's also, let's face it, okay? We need to be energy independent. You know how Massachusetts is going to be energy independent? It's through hydro, it's through nuclear, it's through fusion, it's through solar, it's through battery storage, all of these things which we're pushing on and trying to do. Right now, I don't know, what is gas this morning? Is it up over $4 here in some places? I know it was $3.90 in a lot of places the other day. Gas has gone up $1 in just the last 4 weeks. You know, as a result of Trump's war of choice in the Middle East. And I don't know when that's going to end anytime soon. So we're going to continue to see higher prices at the pump, higher prices for energy oil. And to me, it just underscores why we need to continue to move here in Massachusetts on the things that we're trying to do to lower costs.
One last thing, Governor, related, and then we will get to the calls at 877-301-8970. As of today, 3.978, meaning it's essentially a $4 a gallon gas thing. You mentioned affordability. You've been mentioning your whole campaign was about affordability. It was affordability on election night, etc. Pioneer Institute says this: Massachusetts consistently ranks among the top 5 states for domestic out-migration, losing roughly 182,000 residents between April of 2020. Obviously, you weren't here then. Well, as governor, in July of 2025. That is all about affordability. So what does that say? I assume it's all about affordability. What does it say?
I think it's about affordability. I think it's about affordability, though. Well, it's more than about affordability, okay? I mean, there's a trend that's happened in the last several years across the country. States like California, New York, Massachusetts, other places have seen some out-migration. And some of it has to do with the cost of living. And that's why every day I'm focused on how do we drive down costs. As I said, I'm looking to build more homes. I brought 100,000 homes online, built, permitted, or under development because of the work we've done over the last 3 years. We need to continue to do that to lower rents, to lower housing costs. I capped deductibles and copays. I got rid of prior authorizations, working with insurance companies to ease people's access to health care. We've got to lower health care costs. And we just talked about energy. So, you know, some of it has to do with just the cost of living, okay? Some of it has to do with, you know, people retiring and deciding to move to Florida or other places. But I'll tell you what, you know, my money's on Massachusetts. There's a reason that J.P. Morgan just opened up a new office here, that Procter & Gamble Gillette just opened a new headquarters here, that GE Aerospace is expanding here, that Whoop, just next door, another 600 jobs they just announced. You know, Massachusetts offers so much. There's no better place in the country for education, for the highest quality schools, for the best health care, for a quality of life. We were just ranked the best state for outdoor recreation. We've been ranked the best state to have a baby in. We respect people's rights and freedoms at a time when the Trump administration is continuing to take those away. And so there's a lot of reasons people have come historically from all over the world to study here, to research here, to grow businesses here. The federal government's immigration policies don't help. You know, in a state there where we have so many colleges and universities where students come from all over the world, you know, we know the federal government's policy has had an effect in driving people away. But you know, long term, I look at the value proposition of Massachusetts. I talk to a lot of CEOs, and this place is a great value proposition. We just have to make it more affordable. You know, we have to make it more affordable for working families and for middle-class families. And that's what the team and I are focused on doing every day.
You know, just one last thing about housing, just so we get to the calls, and we will in a second, but you read headline after headline that we're way behind where we need to be. There's a ballot question now that would request that you could be able to build a single-family house on less than 5,000 square feet. I think that's 1/8 of an acre, something like that, because people are frustrated about the housing thing. A lot of the towns are fighting the efforts to do the housing, the rezoning around T-stops to get things going. And, you know, we're way behind in a lot of permits, so we're not coming down yet in housing costs.
I don't think we've seen a leveling off, but no, we're not coming down. It's still a supply issue. I mean, when I began as governor 3.5 years ago, the housing, we were estimated to be short about 220,000 homes in Massachusetts. The experts said we needed to build 220,000 homes by 2035 to get to a point where we had the supply to bring numbers down. And I got to work. Right after I cut taxes, the first thing I did was file that housing bill that did things like make ADUs something you could do by right. We offered surplus state land up to developers for housing. We did tax development of market rate and affordable housing. We've done a number of things, including reducing permitting times. You talked permitting times. Okay, at the state level for housing developments, I shrunk permitting times from over a year down to 30 days. And that's why I'm able to say today to you that over the last 3.5 years, we've got 100,000 homes in the pipeline. Is it enough? No. I need every community in the state to understand that housing is fundamental to the vibrancy of our neighborhoods, our communities, our state. We need housing. I meet so many people who have young people who are living back home with them. And I know they love their kids, but, they want them out in the world and be able to afford a house. I get rid of broker's fees for renters, right? Because I'm looking for every which way to save people money. I've got a first-time home buyer program for middle-income folks. It's $25,000 towards a down payment and lower financing. I'm trying to find every which way to build. And we've got to work to continue to do that. And that's why, I've spoken out about rent control. And I want to be really clear, as somebody who is trying her damnedest every single day to build housing, the rent control ballot petition that's out there has stopped housing production. And it's a shame when I've got, 100 units here, 100 units here, 1,000 units here, where investors were ready to finance the development. They've pulled out of Massachusetts, and we can't have that. We can't have Massachusetts. It was described on a capital markets call with those investors as redlining in Massachusetts. They're not going to, because they're afraid about what rent control is going to do. And we've just got to continue to build housing here in Massachusetts. It's really, really important.
Okay, we're going to the polls. I made a mistake when I talked about gas prices. The national number is just under $4. Massachusetts is just under $3.80. Henry, you're in the Berkshires
today, but it was $3.90. I mean, this is the whole thing with the chaos of what Trump has done. You see what the market's doing. I mean, there's no certainty here. There doesn't seem to be an exit strategy here or a plan. And every day we're just subject to the volatility and the whims of the market. And we haven't even really talked about what's happening with the supply chain and how that's going to play out. Even experts say if this stops tomorrow, we're going to be living with the reverberations of that as an economy, Massachusetts, America, as an economy for months and months to come because of what they've done. And, to say nothing of the money that's being spent, $1 billion a day, at a time when Trump took $1 trillion and congressional Republicans took $1 trillion out of health care this summer. They're spending $1 billion a day on this war, a war that puts our young men and women at risk and in harm's way. And I'm not saying that Iran wasn't the worst regime ever. It's horrible, okay? But what is the thought and what is the plan? And the consequence and the ramifications are real, not just in terms of human life, but also what's going to happen in the American economy. And this is incredibly frustrating is a mild word for it. I mean, look at the poor TSA workers. Look at what's going on in airports around this country. We've got people who aren't being paid. Meanwhile, the people who are being paid are ICE agents standing around, walking through airports, drinking coffee, and just talking to one another, looking at their phones. It's just wrong, folks. It's wrong what's happening right now in our country and the way that Donald Trump and the federal government is not leading and failing the American people. It's wrong, and it doesn't have to be this way.
Henry in the Berkshires, you're on with the governor. Welcome.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
We can.
Yes.
All the way from the Berkshires.
Okay. Yeah. It's amazing.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Respectfully, Governor, you're not running against Trump. You're running for governor. And I want to ask you a question about Medicare for all. I'm a physician in the Berkshires.
Where do you practice?
I know that I'm retired, but I do volunteer work at CHP in Pittsfield.
Great.
But let's finish this thought. I know that Medicare for all will save Massachusetts residents billions of dollars. The studies have been done. And I know that it will improve health care for many people because insurance plans usually do not cover the out-of-pocket expenses adequately. So knowing that, when I spoke to you when you visited the Berkshires as a candidate, you said you were for Medicare for all. So my question is, what have you done to further Medicare for all at the state level, which is feasible? And if you haven't done anything, why not?
Well, Henry, I actually disagree with you. As governor, I have to stand up to Trump. I just said that Trump took $1 trillion out of health care. That puts our community hospitals and our rural hospitals in Massachusetts at risk. Already, look at what we had to do a couple months ago. Trump's letting those subsidies on the ACA expire. 300,000 households in Massachusetts were going to lose their health care coverage because their premiums were going to go through the roof. And I came forward and I found money to help them cover that, and those people maintain their health care coverage right now. As governor, I have to act in the now. I have to think about what can I do today to save people money, and that's why I took the steps on copays and deductibles, got rid of prior authorizations for a lot of things, and why I've formed this a working group right now. I've brought together employers, insurers, and providers, and I've said, healthcare in America is broke. We cannot wait for DC to fix it. I want a plan right now. Later in April, we're going to celebrate 20 years of the ACA and 20 years of universal health care, I should say, pioneered out of Massachusetts. And I want to do that as a reminder of what Massachusetts is capable of. And, we may have our issues with the ACA. It may not be the most perfect thing, but my point is we need Massachusetts innovation on health care right now. And I'll tell you that the federal administration has made it very, very difficult to do that. So I'm going to continue to work on increasing people's access to care, lowering their costs, and working as a state as best we can, given that I don't see anything happening out of D.C. that's going to help us.
Henry, thank you for your call. We appreciate it. 877-301-8970 to contact the governor by text or email. Or phone.
John in Bolton, thank you for calling.
Hello, John.
Hi, first time caller, long time listener.
Thank you.
This is sticking with me, John. Just one second on the Henry conversation. Medicaid for all. Again, it's what is the now and what is practical and what can you realize right now in this moment. Medicaid for all might be the solution. It might be the way to go. But at the end of the day, we've got to deal right now with how do we cover people, how do we get people care, how do we lower costs. So, my position on that hasn't changed.
Back to John in Bolton. Hi, John.
Hey, John.
Hi, Governor Healey. My children participate in collegiate rowing on the Connecticut River. In 2024, Connecticut Public Radio reported that 3 Massachusetts cities, Holyoke, Chicopee, and Springfield, discharged 2.8 billion gallons of untreated sewage and rainwater into the river. And I just wanted to know what your administration is doing to clean up this type of pollution.
Yeah, well, I filed a bill. It's called the Mass Ready Act, and I hope it gets to my desk soon. What it would do is provide funding to shore up the infrastructure that we need, whether it's funding to help cities and towns whose budgets are strapped deal with things like combined sewer overflows. When it rains a lot and these things overflow and then they end up, getting discharged into our rivers. That's one thing, but shoring up the infrastructure that will mitigate and reduce this kind of pollution. And so that's one thing that I've done. I've also got other programs that we fund through our Department of Energy and Environmental Affairs, working directly with cities and towns to help them meet what they need to do to reduce this kind of pollution. But, it's certainly something we don't want to see happen. A lot of the infrastructure in Massachusetts it's old. It's been around. You mentioned a few cities. They've been around a long time. And so over time, there haven't been maybe all the investments that needed to be made in shoring up some of this old infrastructure. And it's a real problem and one that I take seriously. It's also one where we need federal help and federal assistance because the scope of some of these projects are just massive and require, additional federal funding as well.
John, thanks. You just mentioned this Mass Ready Act. We talked about energy a minute ago where I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it took a year for the House to finally deal with your measure. It's pending Senate approval. We're going to ask you in a minute about the PROTECT Act, trying to insulate us from the worst of ICE. This is yet another even year where the legislature goes on a 5-month recess starting August 1st. Is this not a time when they should decide to stay in session and actually do their jobs so that the priorities of you and the people of Massachusetts should be addressed rather than having them on vacation for half a year?
Well, I'm working every day with the legislature to try to move things forward. I've got, there's legislation that I've filed that's pending. I know that it is moving, and I want it on my desk soon. The DRIVE Act to invest in science and research, where the Trump administration has defunded our science and research at our colleges and universities, our teaching hospitals, and elsewhere. I want to come forward with funding to shore that up so that UMass Chan Medical School can continue to employ and keep graduate students and doctoral students who are discovering cures and treatments that save the world. The BRIGHT Act that I've filed, this is about money that's going to create a lot of jobs by doing more construction on our public, excuse me.
Do you have water over there?
You got me water.
We
That's
do,
great.
okay.
On our college campuses, right? So that we can build out the kinds of modern labs and spaces that continue to attract students to Massachusetts and meet the needs that we have for training a workforce. That's a jobs bill, huge jobs bill. We talked about the energy bill. There are items that are pending now, and going to continue to work closely with the legislature on that.
But shouldn't they stay?
Hope they get to my desk.
If they're not done with your priorities, shouldn't they stick around?
Well, my hope is that everything gets done before the deadline, and that we're on to celebrating Mass 250 on the 4th over nearby the Esplanade, and we've got a few months here to go, and I know people are working hard on these things, but we need action. People need action. And particularly right now in this moment where folks are, there are things that we can do to make life easier, make life more affordable, do what we need to do to protect Massachusetts residents and protect our economy.
Jim mentioned the PROTECT Act and ICE stuff. New Jersey just signed legislation to prohibit law enforcement officers from wearing masks. Washington State has done something similar. 17 other states have done something similar. Shouldn't we be doing that in Massachusetts so they don't have to wear masks?
Well, what I did
or they don't get to wear masks, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been really aggressive about ICE. I've got legislation that's pending right now. I have issued an executive order that bans ICE from state properties and from using any state resources. I've also filed legislation that keeps ICE out of daycares, hospitals, schools, churches,
they have been
courthouses.
They've been in courtyards. Yeah. You probably read courthouses. You probably read that.
Well, you know what? I come to this to remember as somebody who prosecuted bad guys, right? I mean, this is the thing. ICE has done nothing to make us safer. ICE is actually a public safety threat in this country right now, and that's why I took the action that I did. It's terrible what's happened with this agency and how I don't even refer to it as a law enforcement agency anymore. I really don't know what it is. It is not that, because the way they conduct themselves doesn't comport with law enforcement training. You talk about courthouses, what's happened is restraining order applications have gone down. People are afraid to actually go to court and get a restraining order against an abuser or to report a crime. We've had criminal defendants, charged with serious charges who've had their cases just dismissed because victims and witnesses are afraid to go to court because of ICE. So we've got to be strong here. We've got to be resolute. The PROTECT Act is moving its way through. But I think Massachusetts has made itself and its voice clear, and I'm sure you're going to hear a lot tomorrow as we move into No Kings. This is part of what is bringing people out. There are things that are just not right. It doesn't matter what party you're in. There are things that are right, there are things that are wrong, there's truth, there's lies, there's a constitution, and there's, authoritarianism. And, I think that's why you're going to see the largest ever rally tomorrow across the country of people speaking out, and people need to continue to speak out against these abuses.
So should we get rid of should we file legislation to get rid of the masks?
I don't know what's in there for amendments. But we'll see. I'll look at anything that comes to my desk. I'm more focused on, the abuse and the presence of ICE in places that they shouldn't be. We cannot have it continue where parents are afraid to send their kids to school. People are afraid to go to work. People are not going to the doctors to get medical treatment because they're afraid of ICE.
Jim McGovern, the congressman, wants to defund them. Do you think that's what we should do?
We should be funding TSA agents right now. I can tell you that. They're going to have to debate all that. I mean, that the whole, they certainly need a whole new way of doing things. I mean, they've now, I think ICE is funded more than all other federal law enforcement agencies combined.
Yeah.
Like all federal law enforcement agencies combined, and ICE is still funded more. And, I think that is entirely out of proportion and wrong, and it shouldn't be that way. And that's, this is what I mean. I mean, we've got to have Congress act and put in the guardrails and restore order to this situation.
Diane from Groton, you're on with the governor. Thank you for
Diane.
calling.
How are you?
Hi. Thank you so much, Governor, for being with us. I wanted to thank you, first of all, for your strong support of our local Stewart hospital after that was abruptly closed. With your help, we now have an emergency center that's being built and will open in 2027. That is a huge relief for us, and we are really grateful. I am calling today about the very dire fiscal circumstances that over 270 K-12 school districts are facing. We're all considered minimum aid districts, and most of us have a prolonged history of being grossly underfunded by the state Chapter 70 funding. We've actually formed a coalition of these districts across the state. You may have heard of it, called Project 211 Plus. In our district of Groton-Dunstable, we've lost 15% of all of our district employees. That's more than 30 teachers and staff in just 3 years. And we expect to have another layoff of 7 to 11 this spring. And because we've failed in our last 2 override attempts, there won't be an override on the budget.
Hey, Diane, if I may,
there's no quick one-time fix.
Can you just ask?
There is a question.
What is the question? Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Last year, you approved a budget that increased the state contribution to $150 per student. But this year, it got rolled back to $75 a student. And what we actually need to put a dent in our $1.3 million deficit in Groton is $500 per student. And can you explain the rollback, and will you commit to significantly increasing this number as we're fighting for equitable funding for our district and 86% of all the districts across the Commonwealth?
Thank you, Diane.
All right. Diane, thank you so much for the question. Really important topic. I'm a huge proponent and supporter of public education.
Can I rudely say to you, we have to take a break? Can you answer Diane's question?
I'll answer when I come back. Sure.
My
Yeah.
apologies,
All right, great.
Yes, we do have to
Hang
take
on, Diane.
Very, very quick
Diane,
break.
stick around.
And we'll get the answer on the other side. We've been speaking, and we're going to continue to speak to Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey. He's Jim Browdy. I'm Marjorie Egan. This is BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Quick break, right back.
There are 26 gateway cities in Massachusetts.
And in 2026, we're going to get to know them all. But we need your help. We want to cover what matters to you,
We want to hear what concerns you have.
what you're proud of, and what you want people to know about your community.
So if you're in a gateway city,
We want to hear from you.
Reach out to us at gbhnews.org/gateway cities.
26 in 26. That's gbhnews.org/gateway cities.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Explore New England, an original documentary film series exploring the region's great outdoors, as well as its history, animals, and people. Available on YouTube and Roku, or online at explorenewengland.tv. And GM Roth Design Remodeling, providing custom kitchens, bathrooms, and accessory dwelling units. Their design team works to create living-in-place solutions tailored to the needs of each home and family. More information at gmroth.com. And Explo, from international law to studio art. Explo's summer program helps middle schoolers to find their spark. Day and overnight options at explo.org/summer. General enrollment deadline April 1st.
And Liberty Mutual Insurance. Liberty believes progress happens when people feel secure. and exist to help people embrace today and pursue tomorrow. Learn more at libertymutual.com.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy live from the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. If you're just tuning in, we're about halfway through the governor's monthly appearance with us, where she takes your questions and ours at 877-301-8970. And before I rudely interrupted her, she was answering Diane from Groton's question. Governor, take it away.
Well, Diane raises a really important issue, and that is the funding of public education. I mean, the cost of everything has gone up. We know that, and it includes health insurance. It includes, supplies. Everything. The cost of everything has gone up, and you see that playing out in municipal budgets right now. As governor, I have provided more funding for public education than ever before, fully funding the Student Opportunity Act. I've also increased funding for local aid, money that goes direct to cities and towns. I also understand that right now the math isn't working in places. It's really tough. So we do need to look at some of these funding formulas that have been set by statute, how cities and towns get funded per pupil. And I support that look right now, and the legislature is commissioned on that. We're going to work because it's also an issue, I know, particularly in some of our rural communities across the state. They're dealing with declining enrollments, and budgets are really hard. So Diane, I'm committed, as is Kim Driscoll, to this issue. It's a hard issue, and I know the importance of funding public education. Both of my parents worked in public schools. I'm the product of public schools, and that's been part of what's made Massachusetts #1 in education across the country. We are again because of our commitment to public education. But I fully understand what Diane is saying about how communities are strapped right now for funding.
Diane, I asked you this a couple of months ago, Governor. The Mayor Wu was here and said it was time to consider repeal of Prop 2.5. But as cities and towns say things like Diane is saying, is that the cost of everything from health care, well, you know it much better than I, all these things are exceeding 2.5. You said, I believe you said when I asked you that question, I'll consider anything. Is that not something you should be leading on? Hasn't Prop 2.5 outlived its usefulness?
No, I don't. I'm not going to be leading on repeal. I don't support repeal. I think it should be done community by community. I mean, my community, Arlington, we got to vote tomorrow on that.
I mean, overrides.
Yeah.
But as Diane said,
and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing record
failed.
number of overrides around the state because of the budget issues that I'm speaking to, right? And so, we'll see what communities do, but it does speak to the pain out there right now.
I was going to do this had Diane's question not been hanging in the balance. I just want to mention, and you have a relationship to this. You'll know why I brought it up. We wanted to congratulate Alex Green, who was on our show a few weeks ago from Harvard. His book, A Perfect Turmoil, Walter E. Fernald and the Struggle to Care for America's Disabled, just won the National Book Circle's Critics Circle Award for Biography last night. And the reason I bring it up is because the issue that he's lobbied on forever, and with a lot of people, was making available to the family members or academic research the records of people who had been in state hospitals. There was a wonderful man, David Scott, who asked you a question about his brother who died in a facility maybe a year or so ago. You responded, said you would make it happen. You did. I'm bringing it up for two reasons. One, because Alex deserves congratulations for this huge award. But secondly, he communicated to us this morning, I'm not going to spend the time now, that while it's wonderful that the law happened, implementation on something this important has been sketchy at best. So what we'd like to do, with your permission, is forward his issues to your office, and maybe when you're back next month, we'll have that conversation.
No, as I said last year, this is something that, once it was brought to my attention, I wanted to make these files available to families, and I did just that. So certainly want to talk to Alex more about any
Great, we'll
issues.
forward all of his questions. Governor's here at 877-301-8970.
Aaron in Hopkinton, thank you for calling.
Hi.
Hi, thank you so much. Yes, Governor, I wanted to thank you for your proposed new hunting legislation update. I'm somebody who started hunting in my mid-30s through your through the state's Mass Wildlife Learn to Hunt program, and it was a game changer. Changed my life for a positive. And as I see the pushback or some of the negative reaction to these proposed laws, I hear a lot of fear about Sunday hunting and a lot of lack of understanding about the real safety risk, what's actually borne out. But also a lack of understanding about what lands are open for safety or open to hunting and what aren't. I feel like people don't realize there's thousands of acres of public and land, local, state, federal, that's closed to hunting. And I'm just wondering if there's going to be like a public outreach or a public education program around this proposed legislation, because I do think it will create access and opportunity for people to have really deep connections with nature that I have, particularly marginalized people in urban areas who face restrictions around firearms licensing or, lack of access close by, the setbacks. If New Jersey, the most densely populated state in the union, can do this with 20,000 more hunters, New Jersey, not to throw shade, I feel like we can get this done.
Alex, Aaron, thank you. Could you explain, by the way, we're getting tons of texts on this, so I'm glad, Aaron. Could you explain what you did before you respond, Aaron?
Sure. Thanks for the call, Aaron. So Massachusetts, it turns out, is one of only 2 states in the country that bans Sunday hunting, and that is something that stems from our blue laws. And, there's that as an issue that was brought to my attention. Also brought to my attention, though, and I think we know, the prevalence of tick-borne diseases is really out of control in Massachusetts and in different regions, and that's a public health matter. We've also got issues with food insecurity and people needing to feed their families, and people hunt to feed their families as well. So what I said to the team is, let's go out and do listening sessions. Let's hear from people about making some changes here and what we should do. We had over a dozen listening sessions from all over the state, and what came out of it is what I think should happen. We should allow people to hunt on Sundays. We should change some of the rules around setbacks and the like that are about increasing access to land and space to hunt. And I think this is really good. I think it's really good for a bunch of reasons. Number one, the caller talked about a training program he went through our state agency, Mass Wildlife. Mass Wildlife is responsible for the stewardship of wildlife and the management of wildlife here in the state. They do a fantastic job. And part of what they offer are classes on hunting. And there's wonderful instruction on hunting and ways to hunt. There are also new technologies that make hunting, things like crossbows are actually more accurate in terms of technology out there. So, that's one thing is increasing access to the outdoors, allowing people to hunt. The fact of the matter is, for a lot of working people, if you ban Sunday hunting, which they're banned from now, they're not going to be able to go out and hunt. Maybe Saturdays they're working, or they're like taking their kids to some sport or doing something. It just doesn't meet with the modern day. The other thing is, these hunters, people got to understand, they are feeding families in Massachusetts. There's an organization in the South Coast, southeastern Mass, that feeds, hunters are feeding 100,000 families in Massachusetts with the venison they're able to get. That's a good thing in a time of food insecurity and escalating prices. And the other thing is the public health matter. And that's why when I announced this, I did so with my public health commissioner standing next to me to talk about this as important to addressing the prevalence of ticks and also our need to get after and identify how we can, as Massachusetts, reduce tick-borne diseases, working with life sciences and researchers and companies here. So, that was the motivation behind it. And again, just to level set, Massachusetts is one of only 2 states in the country that ban Sunday hunting. And in other states, people are able to recreate and walk in the woods and do things. This is a highly regulated space, always has been, and I know that it can continue on Sundays safely as it does Monday through Saturday.
Do you hunt?
Do I hunt?
Yeah.
No, I don't hunt, but I did. I did grow up. I grew up in New Hampshire, and I grew up with hunters. I grew up surrounded by families who hunt, and I respect that tradition, and I respect the need for people to go out, and hunt and load their freezers with meat through the winter. I mean, that's a fact of life and a reality. And I did the event too with Jeff Corwin, who is from the South Shore, and I mean, just a nature lover, animal lover. You probably see his shows on TV, and it was hunting is also a really important part of managing our wildlife, and that's something that we take seriously here in Massachusetts. In fact, it's because of the great work of Mass Wildlife that we've seen a resurgence of bald eagles in Massachusetts. We've never had certain species. We have a really robust species a population. I'm not going to get all the terms right, but like there are a lot of animals that were endangered or at risk of extinction that have now come back in Massachusetts because of the excellent wildlife management. And this, to me, is another example of that.
She's a wildlife expert.
Do you
Martha,
hunt?
so if you need help, you can just
I
give
know
her
a lot about
buzz late at
raccoons,
night.
coyotes. I'm always on the lookout.
Our number is 87.
Governor,
wild turkeys used to be. They were extinct almost, and now I remember years ago I was living in Brookline, and they were standing outside Dunkin' Donuts, a whole
I
group
wish
of them.
they were
So
extinct.
they were chasing people down the street
I know.
outside that Dunkin' Donuts, right down
Okay.
Beacon Street. It was really wild.
Martha and Holyoke, you're on with the governor. Hello, welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
Hi, Martha.
I actually live in Springfield and work with families all throughout Hampden County. I am currently doing counseling and went back to school. And there are two issues when you were campaigning for governor that I remember dearly, that were your commitment to mental health and your commitment to expanding child care throughout the state. So my questions today are about those two topics. One, about what's the status. I remember that you said that you wanted to expand eligibility criteria for the vouchers, make sure that those things were included for child care, for families to be able to go back to work when they had a little one. That's something I see a lot every day. So what's the status of your initiatives? What have been the barriers? And how do you see us moving forward? And then the other question, which is related to mental health, one thing that I celebrated a lot back in 2024 out of your administration was the Physicians Pathway Act to help highly qualified doctors trained abroad to stay here, to provide a pathway for them to grow as professionals within the state and continue providing services to our community, especially to the underserved ones. And one thing that I've been passionate about is doing the same thing for mental health practitioners who have been trained abroad, and their credentialing processes is so different than not just Massachusetts, but the states in general. So is that something that your administration is also willing to support in creating a pathway for foreign trained mental health practitioners?
Absolutely.
Martha, thank you
Absolutely.
for your call.
So, you mentioned a bunch of things there. Look, I think we all know we need more mental health providers here and all over the country. I mean, period. We need more primary care providers here and all over the country. And so, we've tried to incent that by making licensing, reciprocity, something that works better so that people from other places and other countries can come and practice in Massachusetts and deliver high-quality health care. And I think we should be doing that for primary care, and we should be doing that for mental health. And, that's part of what that program that I started, the Pathways program, bring more people in to help, including in underserved communities. And mental health generally is where we've tried to put more resources. We opened up community behavioral health centers where instead of somebody a young person, going to an emergency room and maybe, spending hours, days sometimes in an emergency room with a mental health issue, being, quote, boarded, the stories about that. They're able to go to a community behavioral health center instead, where they have clinicians and they have a much more home-like setting, actually, and that's actually helped families as a respite measure, as a stopgap measure, as a way to intervene right then and there to help this person and then to get them back home safely. So, it's just an example of the kinds of funding that we put forward for mental health. I'm going to continue to focus on that. Childcare, childcare is just like, it's foundational. It's foundational to our economy. I mean, if we want people to be able to go to work, we need their little ones to get childcare. And I'm proud. I'm the only governor, we're the only state to continue COVID-era levels of childcare funding after all that ARPA money went away. But I think it was really important. We've increased childcare seats by 25,000 over the last 3 years on top of what we've had. to provide funding for families and for workers so that we can keep child care centers open and increase the number of spots for child care. That means, those little kids are cared for and that their parents are able to go to work. So I'm going to continue to fund child care. We're expanding pre-K. I'm going to beat ahead of schedule. I said I'd do it in all gateway cities by the end of this year. We're actually going to beat that. But we need to continue to fund child care and to look for ways to just make it more available. As I talk to young people who work here in the city of Boston with young families, the things that they're really looking at, the cost of housing, cost of child care. We got to get it down. We got to get it down, and we got to make it more available. The other thing that we're doing, I've funded a program for child care during, quote, non-traditional hours. We've got a lot of people working in construction, in the trades, mothers, women, who need to be able to get their kids to child care at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'm proud that we've done that. We've got to continue to find child care for a range of people working.
Governor, the federal prosecutors have launched this new team to go after benefit fraud as well as voter fraud in the state. I think we've all read about people stealing from SNAP or Social Security, but I've not heard of a lot of voter fraud in Massachusetts. Is there something that we should know about here that you're aware of?
Yeah, there's a reason you haven't heard of it, because it doesn't happen. Okay, this is all part of the Donald Trump. Come on, right? Just this week, I get another message from HHS and RFK. They're coming after us because we have providers here who are providing abortion and, health care to women, including in other states. I'm proud of that. I'm proud that Massachusetts is going to continue to protect women's access to needed health care. I'm proud that Massachusetts is going to continue to provide ways to deliver people health care. I'm proud that Massachusetts, we actually care about feeding poor people, okay? Now, I also know, I was Attorney General, I used to prosecute fraud, okay? I had a whole office that prosecuted Medicaid fraud. We used to work, and I also, right now as governor, have program integrity units across all of my agencies, in Mass Health, Medicaid, in DTA, which administers, food stamps and benefits. And you know what happens? When those instances, questions of fraud come up, are identified, and the system works as it does here, we make those referrals to the Attorney General's office, to the U.S. Attorney's office, and they're handled. They're investigated and handled. So, that is, as somebody who every day is looking to maximize taxpayer dollars, protect taxpayer dollars, and making sure that taxpayer dollars are not misspent, that are well spent, we do that work. So, I'm always for prosecuting and stopping fraud. Come on. That's been my career. But, you got to understand the environment of what's going on here across the country and the ways in which the Trump administration, whether it's directly through DOJ or through local U.S. attorneys' offices, are just trying to weaponize in an effort to distract and create issues and target political opponents or continue to push a certain agenda. That's what's happening.
Do you worry about, we asked this question, I think of, I don't know who we asked this, do you worry about this country, this surviving 2 and almost 3 more years of Donald Trump? I mean that literally.
I think it's really important that you have strong state leadership. I work really hard to elect governors, AGs, and secretaries of state across this country who believe in the rule of law, who believe in democracy, who understand, how this country has functioned and is supposed to function. And of course I worry. I worry about this fall. It's people have got to, I think, understand what we're going to see over the next several months.
You mean cheating
before this election? We're going to see federal agents on the streets, and they're going to be, outside polling places and around, just as an effort to scare people away. That's what's happened. There's been an attempt to normalize, whether it's National Guard or ICE. Look at our airports now. The presence of federal agents in military-type operations. We can't let that be normal. It's not normal, okay? But, they're doing that for November so that they can scare people and demotivate people from going to the polls. And we've got to fight that, and we've got to fight through that and mobilize people. We also are going to see, look at Fulton County. You know, they ran in and they seized ballots and voting machines. We have a rogue sheriff out in California who apparently is running for governor, who went in and just seized ballots from 2020. Like, are you kidding me? So we're going to see all this, and it's going to be it's going to be perpetuated by the federal government. He's going to weaponize every aspect of the federal government to try to steal this election. That's what's going to happen. And I predict we're going to see some violence before the election, just to give him an excuse to exercise emergency powers. So, you know, we can beat it, we can confront it, we can maintain safe and secure elections as we have here in Massachusetts and across this country. And also, people need to be aware of what's happening so that when it happens, you can call it out and you can see it. And also, just want to underscore the need to make sure that people are mobilized, that they're not afraid to go out. Also, that young people get out to vote. Because unfortunately, you've got a lot of young people right now who are not interested in voting, who don't believe that there is a government there to serve them. And it's really, really important that we talk to our kids and that we talk to our grandkids and that we talk to everybody that we know to say to them, like, your vote matters. It matters right now. And we need people to get out and vote.
You know,
I don't know, that doesn't answer your question.
No,
but yes, I am concerned, and that's, you know, work we've got to do every day. My job as governor right now is to move Massachusetts forward. You know, meet people where they are, address issues of affordability, build more homes, create more jobs, lower energy costs, lower healthcare costs, right? Get after issues of mental health that our young people are dealing with, right? This is the job that I have, and it's also, you know, you need somebody in the corner office who's prepared to stand up over the next 2 years of further abuses by Trump, because, you know, November comes, he's still going to be in office for another 2 years. And that's why leadership from the states really matters, and that's why strong governors who are prepared to meet that really, really matter. What you don't need is somebody who's going to rubber stamp the Trump administration. You don't need it in Massachusetts, you don't need it anywhere across this country, and you need people who are understand in that office what we're really up against and what we need to fight for and protect and defend.
Do you think the three men who hope for the Republican nomination to challenge you are all Trumpified in your estimation? We don't need, as you just said, we don't need people who are in the Trump camp. Are they, in your estimation?
Yeah, none of them have stood up to Trump, and they've aligned with Trump, and they've supported Trump. But, you know, we'll deal with that come election time.
One thing you have to deal with, you talk about helping other Democrats get elected. As you know, Elizabeth Warren the other day endorsed Graham Plattner in the Democratic primary in Maine, a critical race for the Democrats against the incumbent Susan Collins. Warren endorsed Plattner over the sitting governor who's trying to get the Democratic nomination, Janet Mills. Have you endorsed in that race?
Janet Mills.
You have?
I served with Janet Mills. She's a great attorney general. She's a great governor. She'd be a great senator of the great state of Maine.
She's getting crushed in the polls. You know that.
Polls are polls. She's doing the work, and they've got a primary in June.
Let's go to
Elaine in Norfolk. Thank you for calling.
Hi, Elaine.
Hi, Governor Healey. Thanks so much for taking my call.
Hi, Elaine.
I'm getting feedback. Is that from me?
Our apologies. It's unfixable, but we hear you perfectly, Elaine. Thanks for the call.
Okay, perfect. Governor Healey, right now I'm working with a lot of parents with people with disabilities. I know that you're aware that next month is Autism Awareness Month. My question for you is, as you know, there used to be 6 intermediate care facilities in the state of Massachusetts. Currently, there's only 2 remaining. One is in Rentham, the Rentham Developmental Center. The second is the Hogan Regional Center in Danvers. My question for you is, these facilities are state-run, federally regulated, and Medicaid certified. They provide specialized services for people with profound disabilities, especially autism, including 24/7 medical care and structured educational, vocational, and recreational programming. My question for you is, will you help us keep those facilities open? Especially Rentham is 400 acres of land. It is crucial for our people. Our people need to have the right to, me as my son's guardian, he's nonverbal autistic. I need to have be able to make a decision if I want him to be in a institutional or intermediate care facility or in a group home.
Elaine, let's have the governor respond because we're very short on time, and I want to make sure she has time to respond to you.
Yeah, Elaine, I understand what you and families like yours are going through, and rest assured, there are no plans to close any facilities. We want to make sure that within facilities, people are getting access to the very best in terms of care. But, a week or two ago, I issued an executive order that you should check out. It's an executive order on autism and focusing on profound autism and the need in this state to look at all the options that we have for families, particularly as their children age out and become over 22. What do? And I would like to see built across the state. This is what I have a team, and it's including families like yours, looking at what are the options, what are the best living scenarios for their loved ones, and whether it's in group home settings or small communal living settings or something else. Let's figure out what is the best model that serves Massachusetts families well. No other state is doing this, by the way, but I know how many families here are families like yours. And as governor, I'm committed to working with you all and figuring out how Massachusetts can innovate and build a way forward that really meets the needs of our families here. And I welcome your input and the input of others on that. And I just encourage, as we think about Autism Month here in April, I encourage people, if you haven't seen my executive order, please see it and reach out to us if you want to be involved.
Elaine, thank you. You're at the No Kings rally tomorrow, is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, I encourage people to get out. Attendance has only grown through all of these rallies. I think this is the fourth big one, the latest, and I think we'll see bigger crowds than ever. It's really important. It's really important because, part of what authoritarians try to do is just deaden us and depress us and weaken us and normalize a bunch of stuff that is just really wrong. And I think it's important that people are out, and showing that, there's a whole lot of us that understand this is not right. There's solidarity, there's community. Building community now is really important. I also, encourage you to share on your social media with others what you're seeing and how you're feeling, because that also helps build community. And this is really important work that we've got to do and continue to do, and we've got to get people to get out and vote in November.
We're glad you're there tomorrow. Governor, it's good to see you.
Thank you so much for coming in. We much appreciate your time.
Thank you. Great to be with you. Have a good weekend.
We have been speaking with the governor of Massachusetts, Maura Healey, and again, we're very grateful she takes the time to be with us. We say goodbye to those of you listening on any PM, but make sure to tune in at the Fabulous 413. They start at 3 o'clock this afternoon. We're going to keep going here in Boston. Coming up after this quick break, we've got some fantastic live music with Grammy-winning bassist Oscar Stagnaro and his band Triad ahead of a show at Scullers. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Support the news you trust by donating your car, truck, or other used vehicle to our vehicle donation program. You'll have more space in the driveway this spring, and you may earn a tax advantage. Learn more at gbh.org/vehicle donation.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And the Museum of Fine Arts, presenting Framing Nature, Gardens and Imagination. This new exhibition of beloved and never-before-seen treasures centers gardens across time, place, and cultures. More at mfa.org.
And the Boston Speakers Series, announcing its upcoming season at Symphony Hall for 7 evenings featuring Pete Buttigieg, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, financial journalist Andrew Ross Sorkin, and former NASA head Charles Bolden. bostonspeakers.org.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, could a landmark verdict be the tip of the Zuckerberg for tech giants? A California jury has found Meta and YouTube liable in a social media addiction case, raising the stakes for platforms intentionally built to keep kids scrolling. Plus, Hachette has pulled Shy Girl after suspected AI use turned a debut novel into a publishing scandal. Tune in for that and more on our Arts and Culture Week in Review, today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Hello, Marjorie.
Was that me? Oh,
That would
my
be
goodness.
you.
I'm sorry. I always forget now with our new schedule that I am supposed to introduce the second hour
Why don't you do that,
of Boston
then?
Public Radio. This
Good.
is the second hour of Boston Public
Good.
Radio, 89.7 GBH. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. I want to mention that the woman is behind the rallies all across Massachusetts is going to join us later in the hour. But right now, Jim, what do we got?
It's time for another edition of Live Music Friday. This week featuring four-time Grammy winner, Berkeley professor Oscar Stagnaro. Oscar, it's great to see you, by the way. He's here with his band Triad Plus. I think you can probably figure out where that name came from, which includes three other brilliant and award-winning musicians. Two of them together actually gave a special concert, speaking of presidents, to one Barack Obama and his family back in 2009. They're here to celebrate the release of the album Hermetic, which honors legendary Brazilian composer musician Hermeto Pascoal. They'll be performing at Scullers on Friday, April 3rd, and at Jimmy's Jazz and Blues Club in Portsmouth, New Hampshire on May 20th. Tickets for Scullers are at scullersjazz.com, and for Portsmouth, jimmysoncongress.com. We'll tell you that again in a minute. We'll speak with Oscar and Maxime Lubarsky at the interview desk in a couple minutes, but first, here they are, Triad Plus, playing for us. Welcome, gentlemen. It's great to have you all. Thank you.
That was great.
That was great, you guys. Oscar and Maxime are going to join us in a couple of seconds. Want to give the web address again for tickets, Marjorie, while they're getting to
Absolutely.
the stage here? We need a second set of headphones, please, too.
Yes, this fantastic band will be playing at Scullers on Friday, April 3rd, at Jimmy's Jazz and Blues Club in Portsmouth, New Hampshire on May 20th. Tickets at scullersjazz.com and jimmysoncongress.com. That's scullers.com.
Jimmy's on Congress.
Jimmy's on Congress. Scullersjazz.com and jimmysoncongress.com. Sorry, I goofed that up.
That was fabulous, you guys. Nice to see you again.
That was unbelievable. So tell us the members of the band before we ask you anything else. Who's in this great band?
Yeah, on drums we have Mark Walker.
That was great, Mark.
And on sax, I know this guy actually since he was 14, 15. Yeah. Edmar Colon. I'm not kidding.
16,
Wow. And tell us triad. Jim kind of said it before, but triad plus is 3 plus 1.
Yeah, and actually I just want to mention, this is not my band, this is our band.
Okay,
yeah.
It's all your
band.
band.
Our
Okay.
band. And then we decided to do this project with one more person, and that's where the plus came in. You know, we have no other name that we could come up with, so it's a triad plus.
So it started as a triad, and then as we added Admar, so it expanded to triad plus.
It expanded, okay.
Why don't you just call it the quartet rather than triad plus?
Too many quartets.
Okay,
we're still thinking about the name, but
How'd you
for now.
connect? We've seen you guys. We had you here before. How did you guys connect?
Well, we've known each other, I think, through different. We all teach at Berkeley, so
I know
that's
that. Everybody teaches at Berkeley.
I know.
Everybody.
And
they went to it, or they teach at it. Go ahead.
Right, but we've played. I think all of us played at different times with each other, and I think a few years ago, I can't remember now exactly. Mark and Oscar and me somehow just got together and we played. I think at one performance, and it just felt amazing. And we kind of decided, we should keep on going with that. And
you were smiling a lot while you were playing, all four of you, which is a wonderful thing to see in these times. Oscar, you came here in 1979. How was the environment for this kind of jazz then as compared to now in this city?
Yeah, it's a huge difference. Before, there were more artists that came to Boston. Paquito de Rivera, Tania Maria, Michel Camilo, Ayrton. So we have many bands that came from New York, and there were a lot of clubs. And I used to play with a band called, it was run by a bassoon player from New England Conservatory. So we were the openers for all these different places. And there was around 10 clubs that we could play around Boston and Cambridge. But now this sort of like a Latin jazz scene is very disappear, even in New York.
Why do you think that is?
A lot of people, they are beyond my age, so they were retired. And so the new bands are not as popular as before, And then there are not many venues that we go for to hire a Latin band, and never mind an opener for that.
Wait, well, you're from Ukraine, too, so I don't think of Ukraine as being a hot spot for Latin bands, but maybe I'm wrong.
Not so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been here for a long time, but I've always been fascinated with Latin music, even before coming here, and been listening. So I don't know, it just came naturally. But I just love the rhythm, so it's just incredible.
I don't want to bring this down because you guys bring such joy to us, and you will again when you play. But you're from Ukraine. You spent about half your life, I think, there and here. I know luckily your family has gotten out, but how does that weigh on you in your just living kind of thing?
It's. I mean, I don't want to get too much into it, but it's very tough. It impacted everyone's lives in different ways. Mine personally as well. Having family there, bringing them here, so it impacted a lot of people directly or indirectly. So it's a very challenging situation.
Well, speaking of where you come from, we have a lighter thing, but it's caused a lot of tension, Oscar.
That's
and our
right.
Staff here.
Yeah.
You're from Peru.
Okay.
Nicole's parents are from Peru.
Yes.
We found out this morning that one of the great issues of controversy in Peru is there are two major football teams. Is that correct? Soccer teams in Peru. And so her father said, ask this guy, Oscar, which team he roots for. And can we show a photograph of Oscar's response?
We're going to lose fans?
To try to shove it to Nicole's face? Here he is wearing the football teams, and Nicole's father is on the other side of that divide.
Yeah.
How intense is that in Peru?
It's worse than the Celtics and the Lakers. Worse.
Much worse. Well, you hear that all the time, though, that a lot of soccer countries, people that are big into soccer, I mean, it is.
Yes.
We're talking like, you better be careful of the fisticuffs at the tournaments, right?
Yes, yeah. So the fans take it to
very
extremes,
seriously.
you know. But they all love soccer, which is the most important thing.
You're going to go to the World Cup when it comes here?
I don't know. Maybe. My team, the Peruvian team, is eliminated, so we are not participating.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about, you mentioned being here for a long time.
Yeah.
So why the Latin music for you? It just resonated? You just loved it?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I have quite a wide range of music that I've played and interested in through the years. I studied classical for 16 years back home. I got interested in jazz and Latin music back home already while still being at conservatory in Odessa, Ukraine. And I moved here, I think 2001. I came to Berkeley to study. I continued to study jazz. I continued to study Latin music. So it's always, every time you get this question, what kind of music you play, that's one of the hardest to answer. I always say I just play whatever music I like. I love Latin music. Why? It's a hard, it's the groove, it's the sophistication, the complexity of rhythms, the complexity of harmony. And it's just amazing music. I think that's.
And to me, it's just. I mean, I know nothing about music in general, but it's very upbeat.
It is.
It's very.
It is.
Yeah. So tell us, Oscar, before we go back and play again, about your mentor, Pasquale.
Oh, Hermeto Pasquale.
Yes, who just passed away.
Died,
yeah. I looked him up online. He was quite the character.
Yes.
Tell us about him.
Well, he came to Berkeley, actually, believe it or not, in 1994, something like that. I had a chance to play in the band with him. So, he makes music with anything that you could possibly see, animals included.
2 pigs, right? Didn't he bring 2 pigs in his...
Chicken and pigs. But, I think he's like a person that will live in any place and then adapt to that place. Like, you could see it in the jungle, you could see it in the streets, you could see it in any place. And then he will make music with whatever he has around.
Yeah, bicycle pumps, I thought that was unusual. How do you make music with bicycle pumps? And I saw a picture of him with some of his buddies. They're all like in the water, up to their chests, playing on bottles. And they sounded amazing.
Yeah, he was super creative. And, geniuses like that, I don't think they come too often.
Yeah.
Can we get back to what I said in passing a minute? I wasn't being facetious. Almost every performer we have here on Fridays or this week, Wednesday, was either a student at Berkeley, is a student at Berkeley. Roger Brown was here the other day with a couple of young musicians, former president, obviously, of Berkeley for a long time now. He's head of this Salt Lick enterprise with Liza Levy. What would this city's music scene be like? I'm serious. Were it not for Berkeley, on the professor and the student?
It would be very, very different. I believe it would be very different. Yes. Berkeley brings so many students talent, obviously, but also faculty talent, and that, in reality, makes Boston kind of one of the centers for music, in my opinion, because even a lot of people who live in New York come to Boston to play, and also some incredible musicians. Partially because they can make a living here, teaching at such an incredible institution, work with amazing students, and being employed, which is not a bad thing to have. And and Berkeley creates an incredible community, and by community I mean like kind of its own world of music. So it's a non-stop, ongoing.
Well, it's also a big melting pot thing.
It is.
We learn almost every week. There's a totally different genre or
absolutely.
Place from which people came. It's amazing.
And Berkeley also combined with the Boston Conservatory too. Yeah. So that's got. You think of the Boston Conservatory as being more like the New England Conservatory, a lot of classical music, but they've combined with Berkeley, so that classical end is represented as well.
Exactly.
So Oscar, what do you? I know it's not your band, but the band. It's called Triad Plus, by the way. Triad Plus. What are they playing? What are you playing for us this time?
Oh, the tune that we're going to play?
You're coming back and playing.
Yes, we're going to play a tune called Forró Brazil. It's a fast tempo, like not as fast as the one that we played. I guess always faster. No, at the end is going to be, it's a surprise. Faster, It's going to be faster. And this is another Hermeto, of course, Hermeto's tune. And I wanted to add to Berkeley, because Berkeley created a structure to study and teach jazz. So I think that was one of the most accomplishments that the school has.
Did you do the first Latino courses there, or at least in Spanish?
For bass, yes, for bass, yeah. There was another person before me, Edgar Nevares from Puerto Rico, that he taught ensembles. And then when he left, I took some of them.
We didn't mention 4 Grammys. That's pretty impressive. Plus
Look
6 nominations, so that's pretty.
Well, Mark
pretty
also
impressive.
has. Mark has. Well, how many you won? Like
who's
4?
counting?
Yeah, 2.
Who's counting?
We're counting. That's who's counting.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
So put your
When you
headsets
go over,
down gently.
Thank you so much.
Again.
I'm going to try not to screw this up
Where you're
again
playing.
to tell you where these guys are playing. They're playing at Scullers on Friday, April 3rd, and they're going to be at Jimmy's Jazz and Blues Club in Portsmouth, New Hampshire on May 20th, so you can plan ahead. Here's where you get tickets. ScullersJazz.com.
Here it comes.
I'm not going to make this mistake twice.
Let's decide afterwards.
Jimmy'sOnCongress.com. Jimmy'sOnCongress.com. ScullersJazz.com.
It's not Jimmy's Son Congress? Is
No,
that?
it's not.
Okay, fine. Here they are again. Triad Plus. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Oh my gosh.
Triad
We have
Plus.
been listening to four-time
great.
Grammy winner, Berkeley professor Oscar Stagnaro with his band Triad
It's
Plus.
not his band.
Okay, with the band Triad
band.
Plus. Sorry. They're going to be performing at Scullers April 3rd and at Jimmy's Jazz and Blues Club in Portsmouth, New Hampshire on May 20th. One more time, tickets at scullersjazz.com, scullersjazz.com, and jimmysoncongress.com. Thank you so much. Coming up after this quick break, we're going to hear from the head of Mass 5051, Rebecca Winter, ahead of this weekend's No Kings rallies all across the country and all across the state. He's Jim Browdy. I'm Marjorie Egan. This is BPR 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, forget the NCAA. If you haven't heard, we are in the midst of an even messier, octane-fueled madness this March, over which North Shore Roast Beef Shop deserves top crown. We'll talk with the guy behind Beef Madness. And we want to hear from you, too. Phone and text lines will be open. That's the Curiosity Desk today at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And CrowdStreet, a platform providing individual investors direct access to private equity, private credit, and real estate. Learn more at crowdstreet.com.
And Bernadine Sung Megasin at Dream Mega International Realty, dedicated to helping buyers and sellers across Greater Boston, offering market insight and guidance through each step of the process. More at homesbybernadine.com.
Welcome back to BPR 89.7 GBH. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy. We're live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. In a few minutes, we're going to open the lines again and get your thoughts on this weekend's No Kings rallies planned around the country. The big one right down the street from us in Boston. First, we're checking in with Rebecca Winter. Rebecca is the executive director of Mass 5051, one of the key organizers behind the No Kings rallies. Tomorrow, go to Mass 50, these are numbers, 5051.org. Rebecca, good to see you. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks. I'm so happy to be here, Jim and Marjorie.
Yeah, well, we're very happy to have you here. So first of all, I know we've got these rallies going on over the state, but the big one that Jim just mentioned is right down the street. So what's the deal? What time is it? I've read 1 to 4, 2 to 4. What's the deal?
Yeah, so we're starting off with something called Pathways to Power, which is from 1 to 2, and that is how people are going to get to the common. That is called Showing Our Power. So we're asking people to stop at a tea station that's farther from the common, bring your signs, bring your friends, get on the sidewalks, make some noise as you walk to the common.
Okay.
Then the stage show is going to be from 2 to 4, and it is banging. Very excited about that. And we're going to have action tables open from 1 to 5, where we have over 50 organizations who are going to be educating people and recruiting volunteers for activism.
Can we go back to the beginning? You didn't call it this, but I read about this visibility walk thing, which I love the concept of. Explain the logistics one more time, so if people want to get there that way, they know how to do it. Tell us again.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called Pathways to Power. There is actually a map for this on nokings.boston.
Okay.
But basically, you want to stop at a tea station. It's a little bit farther from the common. Give yourself some time to walk. And then you're going to walk. We are asking people to stay on the sidewalks. This isn't a march, it's a visibility walk. So be careful for your own safety. Don't engage with agitators, but be loud, chant, hold your signs up, show that there is excitement moving to the common.
So you get their speakers. We, in the last couple of days, have had 2 of your speakers. Yesterday or a day ago was the Attorney General.
Yep.
The Governor just left us about 30 minutes ago. Ken Casey joined us. Obviously, the Dropkicks are going to be one of the featured bands.
That's going to be a great addition.
Our buddy Jimmy Tingle is going to be there, too. Who are we missing? Who are some of the other key speakers, performers on Saturday?
Yeah, so we do have a lot of local folks. We have some union leaders, like we have Jessica Tang from AFL-CIO. We have Marcelo Gomez de Silva, who was the teen that was detained by ICE. We're so excited to be hearing him speak.
Great.
And I know since our last release, we have announced that Elizabeth Warren is going to be joining us alongside Ed Markey. So we do have those senators. We've got Ayanna Pressley, and you've already mentioned Maura Healey. And then we have a lot of other community leaders. For performing acts, in addition to the Dropkick Murphys, which I am so excited to see again, and Jimmy Tingle, who you mentioned, we do have the vocal chorus. They're also going to be participating in the Pathways to Power, so you might see them on your way there. And we have the BAM, which is an activist brass band.
So you left off the person I'm most looking forward to seeing, Kate Dressler. Explain who Kate Dressler is and what she's doing.
Kate Dressler, I will be honest.
I'm sorry, Kat Dressler.
Oh, Kat Dressler.
My
yes,
apologies.
She's the artist doing the ice sculpture. I am so excited for her too. So she is going to be there creating a sculpture that says "End Ice" out of these 300-pound blocks of ice.
That's fabulous.
And she'll be starting in the morning, but she'll continue to be carving during the event.
So, Rebecca, why do you think these protests are important?
So this is how we show our power. This is where we want to get people together for visibility. It's how people can see that there are masses. We're thinking it's going to be 10 to 12 million people across the country coming out together to stand up against the atrocities of the Trump regime. And we know that this isn't going to turn over that regime in one day, but this is how we get together in solidarity. We allow people to stop doom scrolling. We give people hope. And we also are telling people, you know, this is our movement. This is the people's movement. Just like democracy is not a spectator sport, we need you to come and get involved. So the goal of this event is to pair people with local organizations that can do sustainable activism going forward. We're asking people to take the We the Powerful pledge, where they're committing to do at least one action per week, because it's time for us to really roll up our sleeves and do the work together.
You know, I want to...
Go ahead.
Oh, I'll go ahead.
Okay.
You know, these, I think part of what you're talking about, I think we talked to you about this in the past, these action tables. My concern, and I get a lot of people get angry on it, as fabulous as Saturday is, I think it's spectacular and hugely important. In my opinion, it only matters if people don't wait for the next No Kings rally to do something. They got to continue to be relentlessly doing whatever they can. Explain what these action table things are. And go back to the last rally in October. When you had them, did people follow through on this stuff, or is it like a one-day commitment and then they go off to whatever the hell they're doing for 5 months? Do these actually get people doing things?
Yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. And thankfully, yes, they do. And this is why you're going to see organizations tabling across the country. So we at Mass 5051 saw our volunteers spike after that. And we're seeing organizations all over the state are seeing that as well. The nice thing about all these organizations is there's something for everyone. So if you want to be on the front lines, if you want to be protecting immigrants, join Luce and get verified to go out to ICE abductions. If you want to do mass mobilization work, come and join Mass 5051 or Indivisible Mass Coalition and get involved with that. If you want to do mutual aid, there are going to be organizations that provide things like free legal support, free food, and medical supplies. So we're asking people to choose a lane. Just commit to one thing that you can sustainably do and do it.
Yeah. You know, as I've covered these rallies before, you have all these like tables set up and people there that will, whatever their issue is, you have an opportunity to sign your name or give your cell phone, whatever or your email or whatever, and get involved with voting efforts and all the things you just mentioned. The other thing I was wanted you to address, though, we get some texts from people that haven't been to big rallies like this, and they're worried about it. And there's nothing to be nervous about. This is pretty peaceful. Everybody's pretty friendly. Tell us.
Yeah, we are completely committed to nonviolence. It's the biggest tenet of our movement. And we find, especially here in Boston, that these events are family friendly.
Yeah.
We work with the city of Boston. They're completely permitted. There's always a chance that something could go wrong, right? These are protests. So we do ask people to keep their eyes open, don't engage with agitators. We have folks in safety vests, and if you need help, you can grab a safety team member and they can help de-escalate situations. But overall, we've been really, really lucky, and our previous events have remained peaceful.
So, Rebecca, what's your deal? How did you get involved in this whole thing?
That's such a good question. I showed up at the very first 5051 call to action, which was on February 5th back at the State House. There were about 200 of us, and it was the first time I felt hope since the elections in November. And I said, I need to do this. So I joined the National Discord. I volunteered as a backup press rep. And now I'm executive director, so I would say that things escalated.
That's a meteoric rise, Rebecca, meteoric.
It's imperative. I mean, we have to do this work. No one's coming to save us. So I stepped up. So many people have stepped up, and I want to empower everybody to step up.
How come you don't look nervous 24 hours before? I'm serious. I'm nervous. So I'm not even running anything. How come you're not nervous?
Yeah, I mean, can I be honest? I've been fighting norovirus all week, and this is the first day I'm feeling like a human. So I feel great.
I'm sorry. That's
You going to be okay for tomorrow or no?
I am. I'm not contagious anymore, and I expect to be out there.
And tell people the rallies are not just being held in Boston. They're going to be all over the place. And how do they find out about their local event?
So we are so lucky. We have over 160 events in Massachusetts alone and over 3,100 nationwide. You can go to nokings.org to see all of the events.
Okay.
Great.
And I think I saw on Boston.com in the Globe, they listed every town in Massachusetts, too, that was doing this as well. So Boston.com had everybody listed by alphabetical order. Some big rallies and some little rallies, and all the way down to the Cape and all the way up to the Berkshires.
Come to Boston. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, well,
Rebecca, we're glad you're feeling better. Congratulations on the Mar in advance, and we'll see you there.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for your time.
Great. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very, very much for coming in. I'm glad you feel better. We've been speaking with Rebecca Winter, Executive Director of Mass 5051, one of the organizers behind the No Kings rallies this weekend. Mass5051.org has more information about where the rallies are, what time they're starting, mass5051.org. And as I said before, Boston.com lists all the rallies all around Massachusetts.
And we should say it's 50, then 50 again, and then the number 1 separately. 50501.
5 numbers, yep, 50501. Absolutely. Okay, coming up after this quick break, we're going to open the lines and talk to you about the rallies this weekend. Are you going? Do you think that they matter? Where you going? Why you going? 877-301-8970. It is a rally time here in the state of Massachusetts, and we want to know what you think. Marjorie Egan, Jim Brady, we're both here. This is BPR at 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
This week on Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, state leaders and local activists urge a Pittsfield manufacturer to stop working with ICE. Hampshire College is in danger of losing its accreditation, plus the 20th anniversary of Romney Care. It's our Massachusetts News Roundtable. That's Under the Radar with me, Callie Crossley, Sunday night at 6 here on 89.7 GBH and the GBH app.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Explore New England. This original documentary film series explores the region's great outdoors through a variety of activities, including hiking, fishing, birding, and camping. Available on YouTube and Roku or explorenewengland.tv.
And Good Now Farms Chocolate, crafting single-origin chocolate made from directly sourced South American fine flavor cacao beans. Learn more about their crafting approach at goodnowfarms.com.
Welcome back to BPR 89.7 GBH. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy. We're live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. I'm guessing most of you have heard of the 3.5% rule, that it takes just that fraction of a population to topple a government. Noted diplomat and political theorist, Dropkick Murphys frontman Ken Casey, who was with us a couple of days ago, is a promoter of the idea and thinks this weekend's No Kings rally will help us get there. Here he is on the show with us earlier this week.
Can we get to that level on a one-day protest? And then do we say, now how do we turn that number into some being able to say those same amount of people will agree to not go to work, not go to school, not spend money, and do what really needs to be done to affect people.
Now, if you missed it, Ken's conversation with us is now up on the YouTube page. There were some problems earlier the week for which we apologize. You can watch it at youtube.com/GBH News. Ken talked about building ultimately to what might be a general strike. Massive mobilization, work stoppage of people across industries and jurisdictions as the Trump administration sends troops to Iran, jacked up ICE agents sow fear on our streets and courthouses at the airport. At what point will we all stand together in this country and say enough is enough? The question also recently asked in the Atlantic, I think, is an important one. Where are the college student protests on this issue? They were vocal and out front on Israel-Palestine a few years ago and have since gone eerily silent, seemingly disappeared. Many think it is threats from Trump. So the lines are open for the rest of the show. Our final show before the No Kings rally tomorrow at 877-301-8970. Are you headed to No Kings rallies in your community this weekend, tomorrow? And if you're a college kid, tell us what's happening on your campus, and if there is virtual silence, what that is about. 877-301-8970. Most are predicting, we didn't ask Rebecca this, but she talked about a number, that this will be the largest combined set of rallies in American history. If it
I
goes
think we
as
went
planned.
from 5 million at an earlier one to 7 million at the following one, and they're hoping to get more, 10 million to 12 million people. Although I heard the first text here is pretty discouraging.
What is it?
It says, I asked my 25-year-old niece if she'd be protesting tomorrow. She had no idea what I was talking about. She is going to join her aunt now that she knows, but she said she thinks that maybe younger people don't know about this. I don't know how well they've publicized this whole thing, but I've seen an awful lot of talk about.
By the way, the news media has done a pretty decent job talking about it too.
Yeah.
It's not just about them publicizing. Judy from Rhode Island says, Jim, get your butt to the rally tomorrow so you can experience it yourself. You're so damn negative about protests. Well, I am. Marjorie and I are going to be there doing our jobs actually tomorrow, not as participants because we can't do that, but we will be there doing our stuff. 877-301-8970 is the number. And by the way, let me just say, the most important thing I think Rebecca said beyond coming tomorrow is these action tables, as they're called.
Yeah, they have a bunch of them.
that's what we've been preaching. You got to stay at it. If you care enough to go tomorrow, then you care enough to keep doing something in your community, at your workplace, wherever the hell it is, at your college, in between these huge major events, which can't be scheduled all the time.
People that are into the environmental stuff, people that are into the voting stuff, people that are into the immigration stuff, there's all these opportunities to sign up. And people have brochures, and they can, they'll talk to you about what their whole spiel is. I mean, it's very, 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 very helpful. By the way, I want to mention that the Atlantic has a piece talking about how colleges are so supine. And one of the theories was that because colleges are cracking down now, that they are suppressing a lot of rallies that went on campus, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that the Trump administration went after colleges last time around. Remember when we had the colleges with the Gaza-Israel situation, and a lot of colleges got very nervous about protesting, and instead of encouraging it, they are discouraging it.
I know, it's really frightening. It's really frightening. And again, if you're at one of those colleges, as a faculty member, staff member, student, we'd love to hear from you. Our first caller is one of our favorite people who we met during the show. This would be the great Liliana from Fall River. How are you, Liliana?
Yes, fine. I'm fine. I'm calling from a sunny Fall River, beautiful city. Come and see us. We have a train now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. We know.
That's right.
So are you participating tomorrow at a protest, Liliana?
Absolutely. Nobody's going to keep me down.
Good for you.
My children are, only one She's upset with me. Something is going to happen. You're going to get hurt. And I'm not listening to her. And I made up my mind. I have my sign. I signed up, and I'm going with my sister.
Why do you think it matters that you go, Liliana? Why does it matter?
It matters because I am an American citizen. I give up my citizenship to be the right person to be here in America. We did everything right, my husband and I. We raised good children. They are successful. America was good to us. And now everything is going down the tube, down the toilet. And I can't take it anymore.
Liliana, I'm so glad you called, and I'm so glad you're going to the rally. And you know, I bet it's going to be very uplifting. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about these things. They are very uplifting, and you feel like you're surrounded by other people.
Liliana, you're the best. And, you know, we talk about this summer we have to meet in person. So let's make that happen.
My granddaughter promised me to take me to the tea at your library.
Oh, we love that.
Good luck tomorrow, Liliana. You're an inspiration. We're really glad you're going. Take care. Liliana from Fall River.
You know, Ken Casey, we got a chance to talk to him the other day. He's going to be the Dropkick Murphys. He's going to be performing tomorrow at the Boston rally. He did an interview with WBUR, and they asked him about his thoughts about current events in the United States of America today. I loved how, just read you a little bit. Holy crap, said Casey. Where do you start? You know what I mean? From electing a rapist, potential pedophile, insurrectionist traitor who only cares about lining his own pockets and his own family and taking care of the other billionaire 1% people. He doesn't hold back. He doesn't hold back.
No, he's pretty great.
And if his song, Citizens ICE, it's got some very catchy lyrics about what he thinks about ICE. And by the way, the president was not convicted in any criminal sense. He was held liable for sexual assault.
Oh, he was convicted for other things criminally. He was not right. That was a civil finding of sexual abuse.
Sexual assault.
In the E.G. and Cow case. Let's go to Richie in Plimpton. You are next on BPR. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi there.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm going to attend the No Kings tomorrow in Plymouth.
Great.
And especially from 1 till 2, that's the main hour. I'm bringing a great big sign that I made. Two sides. One side says Trump for prison. The other side says abolish ICE. I grew up in New Jersey, and now I'm 69. But as a teenager, I saw all of Trump's antics, shenanigans, and all of his illegal stuff.
Hey, Richie.
I loathe him, can't stand him, never liked him.
We got to let you go, not because of what you said, but because your connection's horrible. But thank you. We're glad you're going. Thanks so much for your call.
You know, we get a lot of these texts, and they really annoy me. Here's just one of them today. What are the No Kings people against? Upholding the law. I just want to point out to you, texter, that the Trump administration has been breaking the law and the Constitution pretty constantly, ignoring court orders. So when they talk about upholding the law and people coming across the border, they are breaking the law left and right. What is he ignored? Like up to 60 court orders now? They've flown people out of the country illegally. They haven't given people due process. The Constitution demands that kind of thing. So the biggest lawbreaker around here is the President of the United States, who seems to get away with it over and over again.
And by the way, because I'm not in the mood for that, call rather than just text us. If you really want to have a discussion about how the protesters, in his or her perspective, are the ones who are violating the law or endorsing lawbreakers, call us and tell us about it with your voice rather than just an anonymous writing. Kim and Bill Recca, welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you. What's up?
I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm going to the No Kings rally in Billerica.
Great.
I've gone to every one. I think it's important just to be around people that also feel like this is not okay, this is not normal.
That to me, Kim, before you continue, that's more, to me, even more important than the message sent to Trump is what you just said, is for people feeling isolated and feeling there just aren't enough who are deeply concerned about the trajectory of this country. That's a huge thing. But keep on, Kim.
I feel like, in Billerica, a lot of my neighbors have Trump signs, and I feel like I'm not really part of the community. And when I go out there and I see the large amount of numbers in the small town, it makes me realize that there are a lot of people around me that feel the same way. They just don't necessarily come out and say it.
That's
so
great.
It's just giving me that sense of community.
That's wonderful. Good luck tomorrow, Kim. Thank you for your call, and thanks for doing what you're doing.
You know,
sorry.
Here's something I hadn't even considered, but somebody just texted, this is Margaret, says she's a boomer, but her 30-ish kids are conscious and concerned about the Trump surveillance state being able to know exactly who's attending protests and building databases that are going to perhaps follow them for the rest of their lives.
I don't know the technology. You don't think that's possible?
Well, I don't know.
But
I think that's not a reason. I mean, I think you got to be a little bit. Your 30-ish-year-old kids might be a little bit more courageous than that. It would seem to me.
Let's hope so. Anna in the car. Hi, welcome.
Hi. I'm not a college student, but I do work at a university. And I think the reason that the younger generation isn't on the front lines of protesting right now is that they've seen what that does to the university and how the Trump administration is using that as an excuse to prosecute the schools, to take away funding. And I just think that's probably part of the reason.
Yeah, but Anna, I hear you, and I think you're probably right. Trump doesn't need a reason to do what he does. I mean, fear and intimidation and threats are his calling card. That's what he does. And as we've learned, I think, and I hope these universities learn, those who capitulate get screwed a second time. I mean, it doesn't buy them any, a peace. So I hope people sort of step back a little bit and take a look at what this has been like and change their tune. Anna, thank you for the call. We appreciate it.
877-301-8970 is the number. We're talking about the rallies tomorrow all across the state, all across the country. There's going to be a big one down in Boston Common. Doug in Dorchester, what do you think?
Hello, Doug.
Hi, guys. I'm a big fan. I have called a couple times in the past.
Thank you.
I want to share that I have gone to all the No Kings rallies in the past, but I'm not going to go this weekend. And the reason is kind of twofold. One, I'm actually feeling better than I felt when the rallies have happened in the past. I was really afraid that the constitutional order in this country was just going to collapse. I think the courts have actually held up pretty well. I think the Supreme Court striking down the tariffs was a great comfort. And I think we need to save our energy for when Trump tries to cancel the midterms, because I really still think that that's a possibility. I think he's being very clear that that's what his plan is, and I think that's the point to where we're all going to have to really raise hell. Because,
Doug, with all due respect, I would hope that people could participate tomorrow and then figure out a way to participate again if he does what you fear and Marjorie fears about the midterm election. So I mean this respectfully, but I don't think that's much of an excuse for non-participation tomorrow. But that's your point of view, and we hear it, and thanks for sharing it. I hope that people, if they are troubled by the direction of this country and worried if there'll be a country come maybe this November or 3 Novembers down the line, spend some time tomorrow and let people know that that's their point of view.
Here's Allison from Holliston. I will be attending the No Kings protest in Boston. This will be my 5th large protest. My first was in D.C., the very first No Kings protest. I encourage anyone who may be apprehensive to come and join us, be counted, let your voice be heard. The protests are safe and will uplift your spirits and give you hope. They are very uplifting of one's spirits if you're a little down in the dumps. It's really kind of... And tomorrow I hope they have I've been complaining about the sound system.
You're not going to mention the sound system.
I hope they have enough, large enough sound system we can actually hear what people have to say.
Why don't you get there early? You get closer to the stage, so you don't have to worry about it.
Well, even if you get, I was pretty close to the stage last time. Yeah,
okay, good.
I think it's just tough, but I think it's going to be better tomorrow.
Let's talk to Edgar, find out what he's doing today on the show in exactly 4 minutes. Edgar B. Herwick III, what are you doing?
So on the show, we've got somebody I know you love, Joan Donovan.
I love her.
She's got with her author Christopher Mathias, who wrote a book called To Catch a Fascist, which looks at the rise of the right here in America, but also more importantly, a look at the ways that people are fighting back, especially in online communities, to bring those folks into the light. So really looking forward to that conversation.
Oh, good. She's
Joan
great.
is one of the most important voices in this country.
She's
is
terrific.
Huge. She
knows
great.
everything, and she's really, really smart.
Edgar,
That'll
good
be a
luck.
good
We'll
one.
be
Edgar,
listening.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. Thanks to people that came
Thanks for
down to
coming,
the Boston
everybody.
Public Library. And keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast, or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio, which is quite fun. On Monday, we're going to be joined by Princeton's Khalil Gibran Mohammed, Axios business editor Dan Premack. He's going to talk to us about the economy in this perilous situation, and retired federal judge Nancy Gertner. I want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss. Additional support from Ronan Keene. Our engineer is John the Claw Parker. Our executive producer is Jamie Bologna. Special thanks to our BPL staff, Maddie Geyer, Patrick Lally, Bill Francis, Sandra Lopez-Burke, Juan Jose Cadena, our host of the Newsfeed Cafe, and across the street at the Lenox Hotel. Stay tuned to the Curiosity Desk, which starts right after us on 89.7 GBH. And the Culture Show starts at 2. They're doing their week in review, and they're going to be right here at 2 at the Boston Public Library studio. Jim?
How great is it Liliana calls first?
I know. I love
Liliana.
I love the fact she's
no
going.
stopping her.
I think a lot of people that came here from other countries thought they were
right.
coming for something a little bit different than what's going on now.
She is the greatest.
See you at the rally, Jim.
See you at the rally. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, have
Hope
a great
you're there
weekend.
tomorrow.
Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.
From the stories of centuries past to discoveries that will define our future, How Did We Get Here's, how-tos, and more. Journey with us down the rabbit hole on the Curiosity Desk. Coming up next on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Brightbound. It's never too early to start thinking about what comes next, and Brightbound helps students from middle school through high school discover rewarding careers. Learn more at BRITEbound.org.
And the Lowell Institute, Dog Show, an evening of poetry with former U.S. Poet Laureate Billy Collins, presented by the John F. Kennedy Library, March 30th at 7. Registration info at lowelinstitute.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, its author describes it as a non-fiction, anti-fascist spy thriller. To Catch a Fascist is a new book all about the rise of the alt-right and a community of activists fighting to expose neo-Nazis and stop America's slide to extremism. We'll meet its author. Then the future of computers is quantum. These new supercomputers are poised to make our current supercomputers look like Fred Flintstone's abacus. And that's really not that much of an exaggeration. Meanwhile, we might not have a dog in March Madness, but we've certainly got a lot of stake in Beef Madness, the race to crown the ultimate North Shore roast beef sandwich. We'll talk with the competition's founder. Fascists, quantum computers, and North Shore roast beef. It's just what we do here on the Curiosity Desk. Happy Friday, everyone.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The TSA staffing shortages at airports that triggered historic screening delays could end as early as today. The Senate passed a bill to fund most of the Department of Homeland Security except for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The House is considering it now. TSA officers have been working without pay for weeks. The White House is disputing any notion of administration ties to insider trading in connection with oil market trades. Around the time President Trump announced Monday he was pausing plans to bomb Iran's energy infrastructure. There was a point where the price of oil had dramatically fallen. Anyone who bet on crude prices dropping made a lot of money. Bloomberg reported that trades were made in the oil market with an estimated value of more than $500 million. Paul Krugman, a Nobel Prize-winning economist at the City University of New York, tells NPR that he thinks all of it adds up to insider trading that could be linked to members of the Trump administration.
There was nothing else going on that would justify large transactions at that specific moment. We don't know that it was somebody linked to the Trump administration, though it would be pretty weird that someone else would have suddenly decided to make these big bets on the future. It really strains credulity to suggest that this wasn't somebody with inside information.
A White House spokesperson tells NPR in an email that any implication that administration officials are engaged in such activity without evidence is, quote, baseless and irresponsible. The White House reaffirms that all federal employees are barred from using non-public information for financial benefit. A White House lawyer says the president, quote, performs his constitutional duties in an ethically sound manner, and to suggest otherwise is either ill-informed or malicious, end quote. The House Ethics Committee has found clear and convincing evidence that Representative Sheila Cherflis McCormick violated House rules. NPR's Barbara Sprint reports this comes after a rare marathon public hearing.
The Florida Democrat was indicted in November on charges alleging she stole $5 million in disaster relief funds and used it to bankroll her 2021 campaign. She pleaded not guilty. Bipartisan investigators have been probing the matter for 2 years. They alleged more than 24 violations, including improper receipt of funds and commingling of personal and campaign funds. In April, the committee will recommend a punishment to be voted on by the full House, something that could range from a censure to expulsion itself. In a statement to NPR, the Congresswoman says she looks forward to proving her innocence. Barbara Sprent, NPR News.
U.S. stocks are trading lower this hour. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down 496 points or more than 1% at 45,463. The S&P and NASDAQ are both down 1% to 1.5%. It's NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. State education officials are keeping a close watch on a possible strike by over 17,000 school bus drivers across the U.S. The Telegram and Gazette reports the drivers could go on strike if a nationwide collective bargaining agreement isn't reached by this Tuesday, March 31st. That's when the current agreement between the Teamsters and the busing vendor First Student expires. And the Boston Symphony Orchestra now performing the opera Nixon in China. It's set to music the President Nixon's famous 1972 visit to the People's Republic of China. Composed by John Adams, the opera explores the vanities and anxieties of Nixon and Mao Zedong and how their meeting reshaped the Cold War. Thomas Hampson, who plays Nixon, joined GBH's The Culture Show to talk about the production.
This isn't a bio of Nixon or the family. It's not even a bio of Mao. It's quite a philosophical, political opera, in my opinion. Historical narrative. How does politics become mythologized? Who commands the narrative that becomes the legacy and the historical fact?
The BSO's final performance of Nixon in China is tomorrow, March 28th. In sports, the Celtics host Atlanta on the parquet tonight. The Fleet played Toronto, and the AAA baseball, the Woo Sox host Syracuse at Polar Park. That happens later today. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey will be in attendance at that game. It is 43 degrees in Boston right now. I'm Henry Santoro. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include United States Postal Service, dedicated to putting reliability at the core of USPS Ground Advantage to help businesses operate smoothly. More at USPS.com/groundadvantage.
You're listening listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Before we get started today, a little programming note. This show is making its Boston Public Library debut on April 10th. So that is not next Friday, but the Friday after. We've got a really fun show planned. More details coming soon, but mark your calendars. No tickets required. We will be joining our colleagues from BPR and The Culture Show, so you can make an afternoon of it. Boston Public Library, April 10th. We hope to see you there. Okay, right now, in Studio 3, we are joined by Joan Donovan and Christopher Mathias. You know Joan is the founder of the Critical Internet Studies Institute and a BU Assistant Professor of Journalism and Emerging Media Studies. Christopher is a journalist who covers the far right. He's out with a brand new book called To Catch a Fascist, The Fight to Expose the Radical Right. This Saturday, by the way, they will be at BU's Power of Narrative Conference. They've got a session at 2:15 at BU's Metcalf Small Ballroom. If you want to check that out, you can get more details at COM, that's C-O-M, combeyond.bu.edu. Joan, Chris, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Thanks so much for having us.
Good to be back.
So we hear a lot of boogeymanning from people like President Trump, MAGA supporters, the right in general, increasingly around this abstract Antifa movement. But it's not always clear what they're talking about or what President Trump is referring to when he says Antifa. So what does the anti-fascist movement in America look like right now? And is that movement the same thing as this Antifa that people keep hearing about?
Yeah, sure. So, I think Antifa is just a shortening of the word anti-fascist, and I think most of us would like to consider ourselves anti-fascist, but Antifa actually refers to a pretty specific thing. It's like a decentralized underground network of radical leftists, typically anarchists and socialists and communists, who are dedicated to destroying the far right by any means necessary. And that means that they will confront and follow the far right when they are in the streets. It means that they will try to get the far right deplatformed for, violating terms of service. And then lastly, it means that this idea of we protect us, they don't trust in the power of law enforcement or the state to fight fascism. So it's basically taking the fight into your own hands. And so I think there's still a lot of confusion about what Antifa is, and most people will associate it with punching Nazis, which is true. There are Antifa formations that, have confronted the far right in the streets and punched Nazis. But what my book is about is that over the last 10 years, the most remarkable thing that Antifa has done is actually research and intelligence gathering and espionage. And they were going undercover into fascist groups in America and exposing thousands of Nazis, and in the process destabilized much of the alt-right, as that we used to call it.
A couple of questions here. One, when you say exposing, what do you mean by exposing?
Sure. I mean unmasking, doxing, but doxing not in the way probably people mostly associate the word. I mean, doxing is in the digital equivalent of ripping the white hood off of a Klansman. Yeah. It is exposing the identities of white supremacists and other kind of far-right or fascist actors online that hide behind pseudonyms and avatars and other ways of, keeping their identities a secret.
Joan, I want to turn to you. How much of this is happening in the online space? I mean, we just heard Chris kind of talking about the idea that there is some stuff that is happening in the physical world, but we're also increasingly seeing this play out in the digital space.
Yeah, I think most people are familiar with some of these tactics that they've seen related to anarchist organizing, particularly during moments like if you think back almost 10 years now to the Unite the Right rally in 2017, anti-fascist researchers were instrumental in not only warning Charlottesville about what was about to happen, but then also ensuring that there was enough counter-protesters there to take on the enormous amount of neo-Nazis that had showed up that day. And that included just average people coming together to demonstrate against the rising tide of fascism. And so I do think that there's a lot of fanfare on the far right, especially around that time when Antifa became popularized, especially by Trump's, he did this tequila Antifa kind of meme for a while. And Trump 1.0 was really trying to position this version of an alt-left as just as violent as what was happening.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because obviously there's been an effort by Trump and others to equate the far right with the far left, and Antifa is kind of the avatar of the far left. And frankly, I think if you look at the polling, it's been somewhat effective.
It's been very effective,
at least with a good chunk of the country. I mean, I was looking at polling from YouGov from last year, and Antifa does not poll well. And even among Democrats, where other organizations like will poll well, and that kind of drags the general population to somewhere in the middle on it, even among Democrats, it's not that high. And with the general population, they tend to be underwater in terms of, if you say to them, do you have a favorable notion of this? So what's going on there?
Yeah, so there's been such a deliberate campaign to spread disinformation about what Antifa is. And to start, also, Antifa is a really hard thing to define or understand. It's an underground network made up of anonymous people. They don't have like a headquarters or like a spokesperson that can clarify stuff.
Yeah.
But, right after Charlottesville, like Joan just mentioned, the right was on the defensive because they knew Charlottesville was a bad look. And essentially to have Nazis in your coalition, to have a president saying that they were very fine people. There was a pro-Trump troll at that time named Microchip who started a viral petition to designate Antifa a domestic terrorist organization.
Yeah.
And he knew, and he gives this remarkably frank interview to Politico at the time, where he spells out why he's doing this petition, which is there's no domestic terror statute to make that designation. The reason he's doing it, he says, is to set up Antifa as a punching bag. It is to distract and deflect from the right's very real violence and create this false equivalency between the far right and those fighting them. And we know that the far right over the past few decades has killed hundreds of people, whereas, what you might call Antifa can't really be tied to that much fatal violence. And then over the course of the next few years, after every mass shooting and natural disaster, these bad faith MAGA influencers rush into information vacuums and blame Antifa for mass shootings, for wildfires. Fast forward to 2020, Antifa gets blamed for fomenting unrest at the George Floyd uprisings. And, it's basically a way of distracting and deflecting from the right's violence. And then in 2020, it was a way of creating a pretext for the far right to start confronting the George Floyd uprisings. You had entire towns that believed that busloads of Antifa were roaming the countryside, and they were going to burn down white-owned businesses.
And just to add to that, because there was a concerted media manipulation campaign where these far-right actors were coordinating to exploit the fact that Antifa was such an underground and movement that didn't represent itself online in these more classical ways that we think. So much of the discourse that we thought many people would think was coming from Antifa was a network of about 400 fake accounts. So there was Mar-a-Lago Antifa. The one being the most prolific was actually Boston Antifa, which was a comedy troupe who had come out and was playing the role of. And so all of that exaggeration, even Barry Weiss at the time was writing about Antifa being out of control in the New York Times, and she was citing accounts.
And this is Barry Weiss, who is now head of CBS News.
And she was citing accounts in the New York Times that were hoax accounts. They were the far right pretending to be the far left and saying exaggerated things about burning down businesses, about even exploiting business owners by saying we're going to come shut down your business if you don't shut yourself down. Just all of the things that you could imagine a really awful set of people would do were being blamed on this group of Antifa. But once you got into the network, you realized how much of a hoax was going on. And there was a massive deplatforming effort within Twitter at the time. But as a result, now we don't have any companies that are willing to even do that work of looking into and understanding who's behind any of the malicious actions online. So we do have some false representation as well that is, at the behest of someone like Microchip, who is a very prolific hacker.
But is that an inherent sort of issue with a movement like Antifa? I mean, the very fact, as you say, that it is anonymous, the very fact that it is decentralized, that there is no hierarchy, does that mean it is always going to be vulnerable to these quote-unquote like sort of false flag operations, bad faith actors coming in and sort of saying, oh, we're a part of this, but also maybe some level from well-meaning people of natural suspicion of something that is anonymous or something that is non-hierarchical or decentralized in this way?
Right. And, I think potentially, I think that is a risk. The Antifa, people that are involved in this work are anonymous for a good reason, which is that they are preventing reprisals from the far right and from the white supremacists that they are exposing. And there have been, anti-fascist activists who have faced real danger for the work they do. So on one hand, it's perfectly understandable why they remain anonymous. Also, because Antifa is not an organization, because it's a style of politics, because it's a tradition and kind of a series of tenets of anti-fascism, it is always going to be vulnerable, I think, to that kind of misinterpretation or deliberate misinterpretation.
Yeah, but I think there's a moment here where I think Americans, too, need to think about, embrace anti-fascism.
Yes.
Right? We have to learn about it in order to avoid these, unfortunately, these really dangerous outcomes.
And I think it's kind of a moment to step up and maybe embrace the label anti-fascism a little more. In the fall when Trump tried to designate Antifa a domestic terrorist organization, when you step back and think what he's saying there, what do we know about what the Trump administration says when they call someone domestic terrorists after the way of justifying their murders?
And I mean, even more recently in Texas, you had this shooting, and a couple of weeks ago you have these people who were convicted, but in the government's telling of that, in a press release, they are calling them a Texas Antifa cell.
Right.
So regardless of what happened there, I mean, that presentation of this idea, the language that we hear used for terrorist organizations are being used by the government to refer to folks who they are claiming are involved with quote unquote Antifa.
Right. And, those convictions are scary. I think it's setting a blueprint for district attorneys across the country to go after opponents of the Trump administration. And we know, like you just mentioned, that the Trump administration and MAGA has a very expansive definition of who it will call Antifa.
You listen to The Curiosity Desk on GBH. We're talking with Joan Donovan and Chris Mathias about confronting fascism in 2026. Chris, can you give us an example from your book of, kind of one of the, I don't want to say anecdotes because that makes it sound very small, but one of the passages, one of the moments that happen, the kinds of things that folks are doing to combat fascism here in this country right now?
Yeah, sure. One of the main characters of my book is someone I call Vincent, who is a anarchist, anti-fascist activist in the Pacific Northwest. And he actually goes undercover into a white supremacist group called Patriot Front, which... And he essentially method acts as a Nazi for 6 months. He goes on their hikes, he goes on their missions, he goes to their meetings, and he all the while is just gathering intelligence. And along the way, he earns the trust of them to such a degree that he's named the official photographer and videographer.
Wow.
And, this leads to him being able to give intelligence to anti-fascist activists who sabotage Patriot Front actions. But ultimately what he does is he gets 440 gigabytes worth of Patriot Front's internal messages and photos and videos that they send to each other. These messages end up in a public database that anti-fascist researchers across the country can then mine for clues to identify the Nazis in their communities. And because of this infiltration, Vincent's work, his espionage, leads to the identification or unmasking of almost 80 members of Patriot Front. And there are so many stories like that. Another infiltrator went undercover into a group called Identity Europa, ends up exposing 100 of the group's members. And what's most remarkable is, and scary, is that the people they're exposing are people in positions of everyday power. They're police officers and pastors and politicians and professors and you know, a lot of people in power.
And I think that resonates so deeply with the history of the KKK beginning as a civil society organization. The women of the KKK went into education of children, and then, of course, on top of that, you had many politicians and cops and key business figures that had put that movement together. And then that movement turns violence, especially at times where Black people are making the most significant civil rights gains. And so we can't divorce what's happening with the demonization and stigmatization of being anti-fascist from moments when we see people struggling for their civil and human rights.
And going back to the Klan really quick, I mean, as long as there's been white supremacy in America, there's been periods where those white supremacists have been worn masks as a way of, committing acts of terror and to advance really vile ideas.
Yeah.
And as long as there's been people like that, there's to unmask them, and those are some of the stories I tell in my book.
What's the takeaway for the average person who hears the message, sort of agrees, like, yeah, I don't like fascism. I am an anti-fascist, but, you know, maybe doesn't have the time or the know-how to lurk on message boards online, or certainly maybe not the know-how or the time to infiltrate their local group and do something. What can the average person do right now to fight fascism, to be an anti-fascist?
I've been really struck by the parallels between the uprisings in Minneapolis and the anti-fascist efforts to kick fascists off the street in 2017 and 2018, 2019. I think it's really remarkable and inspiring what the everyday people in Minneapolis have done, which is a lot of kind of anti-fascist principles. It's this idea of we go where they go. They are following and monitoring and surveying and sometimes unmasking ICE agents. Yeah. They are pressuring hotels and businesses not to do business with ICE. They're like creating a social cost for being in ICE. They're saying that like you're going to regret to be a part of this. And I think just also on the ground is just everyday people showing up for the most marginalized in their communities and providing mutual aid to the people that are being targeted by this, by trans people, immigrants, and people just kind of turning up for their neighbors and realizing that no one's coming to save us and it's kind of up to us to protect us.
Yeah, and I think building that democratic resilience around advocating for a multiracial democracy, you know, we are at the crux of a battle around what it means to be American today.
Yeah.
And if we think about the political extremes as non-ideal states, right? Even the far right is a non-ideal state. And even the far left, this kind of thing where people are going out in the streets and confronting these kind of violent acts, it's awful. So if you do want to participate, I would not recommend infiltrating local neo-Nazi groups.
Everybody hear that?
Yeah, that is not a way to
recommended.
do it. You know, and
do not infiltrate your local neo-Nazi group.
And I would say also don't dox your neighbors and be really careful about your own positioning online. But mutual aid is the way forward. I think when you look at what's going on the ground in Minneapolis, what's happening in New York, all of these different places where we are confronted with something that feels bigger than we are, you got to go local. You got to figure out, well, where are people hurting and where are the stores that, where's the food, where's the education, and really start participating in your own community to build the democratic resilience against this encroaching force. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us as citizens to start to think about, well, if the state isn't going to provide these safety nets, and it's going to be very, very difficult even for the state investigate these groups, especially, we have great reporters here in Massachusetts looking into NSC 131, which is a neo-Nazi group here in town. So follow the journalism, share the journalism, and understand what's happening in your community. But when it comes to fighting back, think about the small contributions you can make locally to ensuring that your friends and family respect and are excited about the possibility of a multiracial democracy and a representative future. I think that that's really the best way that we can start to mobilize a broad resistance. And I also think it's really important we call ourselves anti-fascist. We call ourselves anti-oligarch because those are the thoughts that are going to lead to decent turnout at the polls even.
All right, we've been speaking with a couple of anti-fascists. It's Joan Donovan, Critical Internet Studies Institute founder, as well as Christopher Mathias, whose latest book is To Catch a Fascist, The Fight to Expose the Radical Right. They are speaking at a panel tomorrow afternoon, 2:15, as part of Boston University's Power of Narrative Conference. Info and tickets at combeyond.bu.edu. Thank you both.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Edgar.
Just ahead, quantum computers are about to totally reinvent what we're able to achieve with computers. It's mind-boggling, and we'll break it down for you just ahead. This is the Curiosity Desk on GBH. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, could a landmark verdict be the tip of the Zuckerberg for tech giants? A California jury has found Meta and YouTube liable in a social media addiction case, raising the stakes for platforms intentionally built to keep kids scrolling. Plus, Hachette has pulled Shy Girl after suspected AI use turned a debut novel into a publishing scandal. Tune in for that and more on our Arts and Culture Week in Review, today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And the DeMoore McKim School of Business at Northeastern University, where graduate students can build vital business skills through experience. Business Bootcamp Series, April 13th through 17th. northeastern.edu/business bootcamp. And Landvest Christie's International Real Estate, an independent brokerage representing residential and investment properties for buyers and sellers across New England and the Adirondacks since 1968. More at landvest.com.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. 50 years ago, we had computers in their larger, clunkier form, but we didn't really grasp how the technology would go on to improve and then totally upend every aspect of daily life. Now, a next technological leap, according to the people working on it, just a few years away, the future, quantum computing. When you make a search on a typical computer, it can only explore one possibility at a time. Now imagine a machine that can explore millions of possibilities all at once. And you got a baseline understanding, I think, of what a quantum computer can do. Here to help us journey into the world of the quantum computer is Peter Ciampelli. He's a graphics reporter for the Wall Street Journal, recently co-authored a great interactive visual piece on how quantum computing works. Hello, Peter. Welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So what is different about a quantum computer from a regular computer? Let's start there. What's the basic difference?
Yeah, sure. So a quantum computer, what it does is that it harnesses quantum physics, which is this really complex and seemingly magical area of science. It harnesses that to do computational tasks like running algorithms or figuring out best solutions to problems. The main thing that it harnesses is that quantum physics is based on this idea that particles can be in two states at the same time, which obviously totally goes against what we usually think of with just
anything.
Reality.
Yeah, reality. Yeah, good point. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, so it's both things at once, or neither at the same time, or both at the same time, and everything in between.
Yes, exactly. So the way that the computers are different at the heart of them is that with a normal computer, it's made up of bits, ones and zeros. So people usually think of it as binary. And what a bit is in a normal computer is like a light switch going on and off. So a 1 means on, 0 means off. Quantum computers at their heart are made up of qubits or quantum bits. And a qubit can be both a 1 and a 0 and everything in between at the same time until it's measured. So it's kind of like Schrodinger's cat, where in the box, is the cat dead or alive? You don't know till you look. And so theoretically, it's both at the same time in the box. It's using that property to solve problems.
Now, as you say, it's so counterintuitive, and there's part of you that goes like, that can't possibly be true. But we do know that this works. We don't have quantum computers at the scale that that some say someday they're going to be at. But there are sort of working versions of quantum computers to a certain extent right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So back in the 80s is when scientists first started thinking, we've already been studying quantum physics. Why don't we try to use it for computational tasks? And then in 1998, that was when the first quantum computer was demonstrated, where scientists basically said, we can use these qubits to solve problems that would take a traditional computer way longer to solve. Since then, in the 2010s, a few companies did demonstrate their own quantum computers that could solve the types of problems that we usually think of for quantum computers. So Google and NASA have demonstrated a quantum computer that works, as has a company called D-Wave. But the problem is that these computers just aren't ready for everyday use. But so this technology is here, and it's already been demonstrated that it works. It's just not, I guess, in the mainstream in the way that we might expect.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. We're talking with Wall Street Journal graphics reporter Peter Ciampelli about quantum computers. What is the big challenges right now standing in the way from us instituting this at scale? Like what's stopping us right now?
So it depends on the company that's making it, because companies have different approaches to how they make a quantum computer. Since it's based on this really complicated science, there's different ways you can take that theory and make it into a real thing. That being said, the main thing that's standing in the way is that as you scale these computers up to be larger and to be able to solve more and more complex problems, more errors get introduced, because it's not a perfect 1 and 0 science. Qubits can start to introduce errors if you're running too many problems on them.
So its version of AI's hallucination.
But yeah, that's a great way to think
and
of it.
And then the other thing is, like, these have to be kept like incredibly cold to work. Is that right? Like a qubit has to be like down near like absolute zero to actually function, which sounds crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that most people who have seen a quantum computer before, you think of it as being this big chandelier. And the reason that they look like that is that each plate and then the tubes underneath each plate, as it goes from the top to the bottom, it's pumping liquefied helium to get it colder and colder and colder, to the point that at the bottom, where the actual qubits live, they're just on a quantum chip right at the very bottom of the system. It's at negative 460 degrees.
It's like bonkers.
Yeah, it's insane. And so the reason for that is that because they're harnessing this magical power that just the universe has. Like quantum physics is something that just exists. It's not something that we're making as humans. You have to have it. You have to have the qubits be completely unaffected by any heat or light or any sort of manipulation from outside forces. That's also why they're painted in gold. It reflects out any extra heat or light that might get into the system.
Yeah, you mentioned the look of them. If folks are watching on YouTube, we're going to bring an image up again of these computers. I mean, they are, they're beautiful. Like they actually look like beautiful works of art.
Yeah, it's almost like you think that they maybe just made them look like that, just for fun, because it makes them look so sci-fi and cool. But no, they really, it needs to look like that to be, to get the quantum chip at such a cold temperature at the bottom.
So given the reporting you've done on this and your understanding of it, do you have a sense of like what kind of timeline we're talking about in terms of going from where we are today, where, as you say, we have some working models, but they're still trying to sort out errors, and the idea being, how far away are we from actually having like a big working one of these regularly being used by whoever it is, companies, governments, et cetera?
Yeah, so all of the companies that are in sort of the quantum race say that they're about 2 to 5 years away from having a computer that can be delivered at scale and used for the tasks that get talked about of why quantum computers will be such a huge impact on industry and everything else. That being said, all of these companies also, want to attract the most funding and the most interest as possible. And
we're close. It's just around the corner. Just another couple million and we'll be there.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, that phenomenon happens in science and tech in other areas too. So,
Speaking of science and tech and just industry in general, do you have a sense of who are the people, what are the industries that are kind of licking their chops waiting for this to come down the pike? Who is it that really, really believes that once this is unlocked, it is going to transform their industry?
Yeah, so the example that we illustrate in the article is that a great way to think about why quantum computers will be so game-changing is thinking about shipping logistics. So if you imagine that you have a set of origins and a set of destinations, and you need to figure out what is the most cost-efficient way to get from which origin to which destination, a regular computer would have to try all of those combinations sequentially, whereas a quantum computer can solve the entire problem all at once and in parallel figure out what is the best route. So that small example, you could imagine it extrapolated out to other vastly more complicated problems, like say internet delivery, where you have a bunch of warehouses, a bunch of customers, a bunch of originating vendors, and you have to figure out all of these logistical variables. Quantum computing is that type of exponential problem solving that will really change the game when it comes to those types of optimization problems.
Yeah. So sounds like at the very least, it feels like Amazon would be interested. All right. We've been speaking with Wall Street Journal graphics reporter Peter Ciampelli about quantum computers. Peter, thanks so much for illuminating the world of quantum computers for us today on this Friday.
Thank you for having me.
All right, stay with us. Just ahead, we're beefing up our coverage of the 2026 Beef Madness Bracket. Who's got the best beef on the North Shore? We'll opine on the best slice of bovine after a quick break. This is the Curiosity Desk on GBH. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Arun Roth. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, the Boston Red Sox won their first game of the season yesterday. Now it's opening day for their top minor league team, the Woo Sox. And this week's Joy Beat, one close to my heart, celebrating the man who brings the best Indian classical music to intimate venues in Lexington. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you and the Boston Speaker Series, announcing its upcoming season at Symphony Hall for 7 evenings featuring Pete Buttigieg, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, war photographer Lindsay Addario, and former U.S. Ambassador to China Nicholas Burns. bostonspeakers.org. And the Worcester Symphony Orchestra, presenting the music of Frank Sinatra, featuring Las Vegas Sinatra tribute artist Chris Jason and the Sinatra Live Big Band, Saturday, March 28th at 7 at Mechanics Hall. Tickets at worcestersymphony.org.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Here we are in late March when the madness heats up. The Sweet 16, the Elite 8, the Final 4, and you know what I'm talking about. Beef Madness. Yes, the annual competition where 64 North Shore roast beef sandwiches square off in a single elimination tournament to determine the one beef that rules them all. In a few minutes, we're going to be talking with the mind behind Beef Madness, the man who runs the wildly popular and spirited North Shore Beefs Facebook group. But first, last year, the Curiosity Desk team set out on a tour of our own to taste some of the best beef on the North Shore, led by Massachusetts native and North Shore roast beef apostle, comedian Josh Gondelman. We're going to start you with some highlights from that quest, but first I want to invite you to weigh in on your favorite North Shore roast beef. You can call or text at 877-301-8970 if you have a cow in this fight. That's 877-301-8970. Okay, now, like many a Curiosity Desk segment, this one begins with a three-way of sorts.
A roast beef three-way is not as salacious as it sounds.
3 ways diverged on the North Shore, and this sandwich took all of them. If you know, you know. But if you don't, we're here to explore what makes or breaks the North Shore roast beef sandwich with comedian and roast beef aficionado,
Josh Gondelman.
All right, welcome, Josh.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you on Revere Beach. I've been threatening to do a tour of North Shore roast beef sandwiches. I live in New York City. I've lived there for 14 years, but I'm from Stoneham, Massachusetts, which is sort of north and definitely not shore, but the North Shore beef is my culture. That's what I grew up around.
Okay, so we're about to strike out on a little bit of a journey now.
Yeah.
We're going to go to a couple of places.
Yeah.
What are your hopes and your dreams? What do you hope you get out of this we get out of this
Thank you
today?
for asking.
Yeah.
What people don't realize is like the roast beef and seafood restaurant is so local to New England that when I mentioned it to my wife who's from New Jersey, she was like, that's not a kind of restaurant that exists. And so I really want to share the North Shore beef culture, the roast beef of the North Shore with the world. Chicago Italian beef has been getting too much shine thanks to the bear, and we've got to bring back our beef. So there's some acronyms that are important for evaluating the quality of the roast beef sandwich.
What do we got?
So FPW, that's huge. That's fresh, pink, and warm.
But not hot.
Not hot. Not like a soup hot.
Like a bath hot.
Yeah, that's nice. Like a bath hot.
Okay, like a bath hot.
Bathwater. Yeah, you want a kind of a bathwater beef. COTB, cheese on the bottom so it doesn't slide around too much.
I got it.
You want it to have a little bit of slosh to it, but it is not an optimal driving sandwich.
Right.
FOB, flavor of the beef, and it's like the seasoning and the quality of the meat itself. B2B, beef to bun ratio, right?
Yeah.
You don't want too much beef because it's unwieldy, that's for show. But again, you don't want it too small, you don't want it mostly bread.
Yeah.
That's just a hot pocket at that point.
Yeah.
And then NC, that's huge, napkin count. You don't want it too messy, you don't want it to feel like someone just poured steak sauce into your hands, but you don't want it too tidy because that means you're not getting all those flavors that you're looking for.
All right, so that's a lot.
And it's an intense and intricate rubric, time tested over years, and we're here beefing on the shoulders of giants, frankly.
First beef on the menu, where else but the institution that claims to be the originator, Kelly's in Revere, where we met Director of Franchise Operations, Jim Ratage. We begin right here at Kelly's on Revere Beach. Now, they say that this is the birthplace of the North Shore roast beef sandwich. So what is it about that sandwich that makes it it?
I think the toasted roll, it's a really nice dense roll. It's not a soft roll. It's going to collapse under the weight of a rare roast beef.
So is rare roast beef an important piece of this?
Medium rare is definitely an important piece in New England. Our ovens cook to a certain internal temperature, so it's going to be a perfect medium rare all the time. Okay, so now that the sandwich is sliced, this is what I like to do. Dress the sandwich 3-way. So mayonnaise, sauce, and cheese. Some mayonnaise on the roll. James River barbecue sauce, and American cheese.
How many have you made, do you think, in your life?
So many, I've probably wiped out whole herds.
So, are we ready to get into this?
I'm ready.
All right. And would a 3-way be how you typically would take it yourself?
It is, yeah. Okay, so we got cheese on the top, which is going to cause some controversy, but we'll trust Kelly's. They're an institution. Shall we?
Yes, shall we partake? Let's go.
Wow. Honestly, they're really good.
Really good. Napkin?
Oh, thank you, yeah. I'm more napkin than man at this point. This is a great way to start the day.
So how do we feel about the messiness level of this?
I think
this
is
just
good.
about right?
Yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
We're employing the napkins, but we're not in dire need of more napkins.
Yeah.
I think we've really done a nice job. This really takes me back to my childhood. I would call this a Proust beef, honestly. This is a remembrance of things past.
It's your Madeline.
It's my Madeline, that's right.
All right. Well, that felt like a pretty strong start.
Oh yeah, I'm really pleased with how we started the day. Kelly's is like such a baseline bedrock beef, a triple B, if you will.
Next, we trekked to Peabody for a stop at Londy's Roast Beef, where Josh and I met up with owner Ted Londy. But just a reminder, we're going to shortly be meeting the man behind 2026 Beef Madness. We want to hear from you. We're talking North Shore Roast Beef. Call or text at 877-301-8970. 877-301-8970. On to Londy's.
We got Pride decided line out the door. Usually we don't take orders over the phone anymore because we can't
fill them.
We can't fill them because we do everything fresh. and we use top quality of meat. We don't pre-cut them, then serve them. So you ordered a beef, so we cut in the moment, we do it, we grill the bun, then we serve it nice and hot. You know, we can mix spices and sauces, but you have to taste them. You have to give the balance between the spicy, the hot, the salt, the garlic, the onions, so you have to do balance. That's my creation. It's a GFY sauce. GFY sauce took me 3 months to make it, you know what I mean? Every Sunday I spend 5 hours here to figure out how to do it. I love roast beef, you know what I mean? I love to eat roast beef.
Is that why you live in the North Shore? Because there's enough roast beef here?
No, but you know what I mean? It is, that's why I ask, it helps, you know?
Go. We're gonna need a lot of napkins. Holy cow.
This is real New England beauty. The beef to bun ratio, the B to B is outrageous, right? That is tremendous.
We got cheese on bottom.
Classic. And the beef looks really nice and fresh.
Yeah. This is definitely messier than we were at Callie's.
There's a lot of flavor. You can see the beef is really pink.
Nice and pink.
It's really falling apart in like a beautiful way, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, this is incredible.
You got the James River barbecue sauce. Very tangy coming through.
Nice kick. You can feel it, right? Ted was talking about how fresh the ingredients are, and you really feel like this is made fresh. The ingredients are top quality.
Yep.
It's really good. Yeah, gosh, I love it.
So I feel like I'm getting the meat sweats a little bit here.
Same.
Now, is that a sign of a good roast beef sandwich or a bad roast beef sandwich? If you got the meat sweats.
Much like sweating when you exercise, meat sweat means your body is doing its job to keep you cool and healthy. So I think if you're sudden, you're doing it exactly right. That's a sign the beef is working. Your body's taking to it naturally.
Yeah. Last but not least, we visited Bella's Roast Beef in North Andover, which was last year's Beef Madness winner. We chatted with the owner, Harry Canelos. And yes, this was our 4th roast beef sandwich of the day at that point, not for the week.
I will.
You got one last roast beef in you.
I can do it.
It's got that look in your eye, that hungry look in your eye.
That's right. I've got the eye of the tiger, a tiger that hasn't eaten beef in nearly an hour.
Bella's roast beef sandwich, do you have something that sets you apart?
It's all in the cook. It's all in the cook. You have to know how to cook the roast beef.
And how do you cook the roast beef?
I can't tell you. You shave it very, very thin. You don't want it mushy, and you don't want it too thick because then it's chewy. My father bought a store in 1979 in South Boston. It was called Liberty Bell Roast Beef. I was 8 years old then, so I've been in the game that long. You get the sauce all the way through the sandwich. This is a 3-way on an onion roll, Junior.
So a 3-way popular here. Seems like it's popular everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then how else do people like to get it?
The one that kills me the most is they say, can you put ketchup on it? It's not a cheeseburger, it's a roast beef. Don't put ketchup on it. It's like, I like making it, like cringing while I'm putting the ketchup.
You're like, I'll do it, the customer's always right, but I'm gonna hold my nose while I do this. Yeah.
Junior cheese and sauce.
So we got cheese on bottom again.
Classic.
This sort of seems like it splits the difference between Kelly's and Londy's. I feel like I want to do like a mini smash.
Little,
yeah. Right?
Yep, just a little squish.
So we'll do a little squish, maybe go for a bite?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Here we go. Oh, that roll feels nice.
Yeah, it feels really fresh.
I got a happy mouth right now, I gotta tell you.
Great flavor from the sauce.
Nice tang.
Great griddle on the bun. I didn't know what I would feel like when the 3rd location's beef hit my lips. And I'm still like, this is a great day and a great sandwich. I feel like for today I have to apologize to every vegan I know. I have to apologize to my late grandmother, Lily, on my mother's side, who kept kosher.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to apologize to my own body. I think I lowered my own life expectancy by probably a decade and a half.
But worth it, right?
No regrets. This was such a great tour. This location is so wonderful. Everybody's been so lovely, and this tastes amazing. I'm gonna have another bite right now.
All right. Thanks again to the Curiosity Desk video team and comedian Josh Gondelman for that. Okay, now, as promised, with us live in Studio 3 is the founder of the Facebook group North Shore Beefs and the guy behind Beef Madness, the one and only Andy Kerg. Welcome, Andy.
Kerg, it's Ferg.
Ferg, the one and only Andy Ferg. Fergie. How did this thing? Where are we at in the 2026 Beef Madness? Where's the brackets at right now?
Sweet 16 right now.
So we're in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, 16 remain, and it'll resume tomorrow. We have 4 matchups tomorrow and 4 more on Sunday, so we'll be down to the Elite 8.
How contentious has it been this year?
So far, it's been kind of tame.
Yeah.
But because we're at that crazy level right now where people are going to stop making choices, hard choices. They're two of their favorite places.
How do you set the bracket? Like, are you seating it in your mind? Like, and is it you that's choosing the seating? Like, how do we get the seating set?
We didn't actually seat it this year because I figured out that people will vote for the lower number, the favorite, if you will, without knowing the correct answer.
Because they just like an underdog, which is that it?
Well, no. I think they want to be right.
Oh, you say the lower number, like the
higher seed.
So they're like, if this is
if it's a 1 versus a 4, obviously
like,
the one's better, but it may not be better. It just might get reviewed more, and someone might like this. So this year I decided no more numbers, even though it is seeded, but there's no actual numbers. In my head, there are numbers. The 1 and the 2 are obvious, and then you mix it in the middle. But I set the whole thing up. I chose the 64 shops that got in because there are way more than 64 shops.
That's wild. That is wild that there is that many.
At this moment right now, not full-time, but available at some point in reviewable on our app, because we have we have an app that if I Google in an iPhone, that is kind of like a Yelp or a One Bite app with Portnoy.
Yeah.
Where you can share your location and find out what the best shops are around you are.
What's the app called?
North Shore Beefs.
So North Shore Beefs, get the app if you're into the North Shore Beefs. And it's free. So
it's free.
If you got a phone, and I bet you do, get that app.
And there's no advertising yet either. It's just a pure app.
It's just for the love of the beef.
Right now it's for the love of the beef. If we can get people to download the stupid thing, we might get... No, a buddy of mine worked really hard on it, made it. So if you were to open your phone right now on the North Shore Beefs app, you could see the closest beef with the average score on the pin. So people review it, give it a number, score 1 through 10. So we basically took that app and all the Facebook reviews and all the Instagram influencer posts, and I kind of put them all together and decided these 64 shops are worthy. Like I was saying, though, on the app right now, there are 200 places that you could possibly get one of these, or at one point could have got one of these.
A couple of anonymous texts have come in. We got one person saying a Londy sandwich is truly a marvel of engineering. Another one says Mikey's roast beef in Beverly is great. So those are some name checkings going on right there.
So Londy's is as good as anybody. That's the top tier. They might win it this year. They've never won it, but it's a weird thing because the guy you had on with the Gondelman thing, Ted, that was talking, he owns Londy's for a little while, then sells them and starts a new one.
Yeah.
He's never actually had a shop long enough during Beef Madness to really make
to
way.
put the effort in,
So now he has. So he's got a chance. Mikey's in Beverly is one of my favorite for like an old school, not newfangled, just a good working man's three-way.
Nothing fancy, no bells, no whistles.
The Londy's you have to eat with like a towel over you.
The Londy's is insane.
Yeah.
It is a marvel of engineering. I think that's a good way to say it, because you're like, how is this physically possible?
You have to be like ready to have a food coma if you go there. You can't go there for like just a leisurely lunch on a Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah. You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. We're talking with Andy Kerg about the North Shore Beef Madness competition. Who's voting? Like, who's participating in this?
Facebook group members.
Yeah.
If you're part of the North Shore Beefs Facebook group,
how big is that group now?
We're about to hit 50,000.
That's wild.
If people could behave, it would be well over 50,000, but we have a lot of North Shore animals that
walk in the line.
Oh, they've ran through the line many times.
But that's part of the charm of the group, is it not?
Oh,
I mean, that's part of that's the ethos of the roast beef sandwich and the North Shore a little bit, is it not?
100%. But when we started the group, it was a small group of like-minded folk.
Yeah,
just busting each other's chops.
Yeah.
It kept getting bigger and bigger, and the attitude didn't change. So now it's 50,000 animals. And they all want to be the funniest guy in the room.
Yeah.
And they keep pushing the line to see how far they can go. And there are certain limits things you can't say about people or their families or their pets. It's like, whoa, settle down. It's a sandwich. So I've had to remove quite a few people from the group, threatening people, it's really crazy how wild it gets.
Do you engage often on the Facebook page?
A little too much.
You get in there?
A little too much sometimes.
Just up at night, late at night, just scrolling through.
I'm really, really good at being mean.
Yeah, one of your special talents.
It's probably I think it might be my best talent. I was a decent athlete, but I'm way better at being mean than being athletic. And I just this morning I got my personal page was we call it Zucked.
Yeah.
I got a little suspension for 24 hours because I was.
Oh, that's beautiful. Do you? How many times have you been zucked?
Oh boy, that number is high. And that was a once a week thing a couple of years ago. They've limited the restrictions now. I don't know what changed, but they stopped really being aggressive with the restrictions.
What'd you get zucked for this morning?
I mean, I can't repeat it, but it was really aggressive, and I'm also bit of a wordsmith.
Yeah,
I don't just go. I get into there with them. I would never. If this was on Sirius XM and we could go anywhere, I could repeat it, and you would say, "Wow, that's mean." I said, "Yeah, it's pretty mean."
That's pretty mean.
It's pretty mean.
But I feel like. Do you feel like your best work is still ahead of you though?
For being mean?
Yeah.
I'm trying to lighten up a little bit because it's hard to do mainstream stuff when you're on there saying these awful things.
Yeah.
I remember when Chronicle hit me up, I'm like, "You want me on Chronicle? You sure?" And it was fine. It went great.
Yeah.
But like, I have these two, normal Andy and then this guy that does the Facebook group who eats sandwiches and says ridiculous things.
It's your alter ego.
It is.
But that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, listen, to hear you talk about what this is, I mean, Beef Madness, you got 64 things that you're seeding in your head and you're like laying it out there. You got a Facebook group with tens of thousands of people on it. That is a significant time investment.
Oh, yeah.
What is it about this that you're so passionate about it?
One, the sandwich is my favorite sandwich. It was growing up. And how should I word this? I like being somebody.
Yeah, sure.
I like
everybody
having
wants to be somebody.
Notoriety is awesome. Again, it's like an ego thing. You go into a place and the owner knows me and 4 or 5 people in there know me.
Yeah.
I was doing something at Game On last night, some promo stuff. I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah.
It's just like it's good for your ego.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it, and I love running the tournament. It's a blast. People get mad, they get happy, they get controversy, and I just get to be the Geppetto, just running the puppets. It's fun.
How many years have you been doing the Beef Madness tournament?
We started in 2020, and the reason we started was March Madness, the college basketball, was canceled because of COVID.
Oh, right.
And I wanted a tournament because I love March Madness.
Okay.
It's my huge.
You're just in.
I'm locked in, so I didn't have one, so I'm making my own.
There you
and
go.
I just did it, and it took off.
Nice. What's the hardest? What's legitimately the hardest part of keeping this whole operation afloat? Or is it like one of these things where you're like, I've never worked a day in my life because I love the work?
Monitoring the group's a pain.
Yeah.
Setting up Beef Madness. Well, luckily I have help. I'm not alone. I have one of my buddies, Matt. He sets up the spreadsheet for it because I'm not
inclined that way.
Yeah,
you're a wordsmith.
Yes,
you're not a spreadsheet guy.
And he does a great job, and it comes out awesome. And when I was doing it on my own, it came out terrible. So a bunch of people helped me with that, especially Matt. But once it's set up, it's kind of autopilot. I set it up to the posts go up at a scheduled time, automatically at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. At 3 hours later, at 5 o'clock, I just delete it and screenshot it, and it flows through. And Matt helps me keep the brackets continuing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty much an autopilot right now. And the voting, I don't even vote. I just tally the votes and move on.
All right. Well, we are out of time, but I do want to ask you before we get if you had to have one, you can only have one more roast beef sandwich in your life. Where are you getting it?
Easy answer would be Modern Butcher, but I'm going to Zeno's instead because Zeno's is my favorite before the group and currently.
There you go, Zeno's. All right, we've been speaking with Andy Kerg, the man behind 2026. Ferg, the man behind 2026 Beef Madness. Check out his Facebook group, North Shore Roast Beefs. That's all the time we have. One final curiosity question. What do Hannah Montana, J.R.R. Tolkien, and Tina Fey all have in common? You'll hear about them on the Culture Show's Week in Review down at the BPL next, so don't go anywhere. We're produced by Aidan Connolly, Rachel Armani, Olivia Corcio, Hannah Lawson, Nicole Garcia. Patty Daniels is the method in our Beef Madness. Our engineer is John the Claw Parker. We will be right back here Monday on GBH 89.7 and streaming on YouTube. Until then, I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Stay curious out there.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, providing coverage plans for individuals, families, employers, and retirees with benefits that help you live in your moment. More at massgeneralbrighamhealthplan.org.
Brackets, fierce competitors, buzzer beaters. That's right. Play along at home and don't miss an all-new episode tomorrow at 6. on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Culture Show news desk, I'm Henry Santoro. The Mass Cultural Council has brought on a very familiar face to its governing board, and its lifelong Dorchester resident, Joyce Linehan, who formerly served as the Chief of Policy and Planning for the City of Boston in the office of Mayor Marty Walsh, and as a special assistant to the president at the Mass College of Art and Design. But long before that, Joyce was the director of Ashmont Media, a marketing and public relations company serving arts organizations, and was previously the vice president of A&R for Sub Pop Records, where she managed several bands and musicians. Joyce was appointed by Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey. Her term will run through February 24, 2028. It's a perfect fit for this new gig. And we may not have heard much from Taylor Swift these past few months, but Thursday night she was front and center for the iHeart Music Awards, taking home not 1, 2, or 3 awards, but 7, including Artist of the Year, Album of the Year, who released a new song this week called Days We Left Behind.
See the boys of Dungeon Lane along the Mersey shore. Some of them will feel the pain, but some were meant for more.
The song is the first single to a new LP called The Boys of Dungeon Lane. Maybe I'm amazed, but at 83 years old, he still sounds like a Beatle. That's this edition of the GBH News Weekly Friday Afternoon Culture Cast. I'm Henry Santoro. Next up, The Culture Show with my friend and yours, Jared Bowen, live at the Boston Public Library.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, happy Hanniversary. For a generation of fans, Miley Cyrus made Hannah Montana the ultimate fantasy. You could be awkward and adored, anonymous and famous, all at once. As Disney celebrates the show's 20th anniversary with a new special, we'll consider why that split-screen life still speaks to the generation that grew up with her. Then live from London, it's Saturday night. After 50 years of American satire, SNL has crossed the Atlantic. Now launching in Britain, SNL UK brings the franchise's live sketch format to a nation fluent in satire, but one with a drier, darker comic sensibility. Can one of TV's most durable comedy machines find a new accent overseas, or will something get lost in translation? From there, Meta and YouTube just lost a case that could be the tip of the Zuckerberg, and it may be big tech's big tobacco moment. The lawsuit targeted the algorithm of addiction, infinite scroll, sticky design, and the business of keeping kids hooked. Now the question is how much bigger this legal reckoning becomes. And after years of wearing his Tolkien obsession on his sleeve, Stephen Colbert is officially entering the Old Forest. He's co-writing a new Lord of the Rings film, drawn from Fellowship chapters filmmaker Peter Jackson never adapted. The kind of deep-cut material only a true believer could fully embrace. That and much more right now on The Culture Show's Week in Review.
The Culture Show is made possible in part. Proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Welcome to The Culture Show on 89.7 GBH and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. I'm Jared Bowen.
I'm Callie Crossley.
I'm James Parker.
James, welcome to the show. Great to have you here. We're going over the week's top arts and culture headlines, starting with this. Hannah Montana gave a generation the ultimate fantasy, being an ordinary teenager sporting a secret pop star life. Hers was a split identity that felt both impossible and completely relatable. Now, 20 years later, Disney is marking the anniversary with a new special, tapping into the fandom that never let go. The show put Miley Cyrus on a path to major stardom, and now it seems she is beyond delighted on this Hanniversary to revel in it all, along with quite a few famous friends. This has been really fun to see this happen over this last week. I have to tell you, I know nothing about Hannah Montana. This is a cultural pothole for me, just because of my age and didn't have kids or, the whole thing. So I am struck by the fact that there is this entire generation that grew up around her and with her, even Lady Gaga, Chappell Roan, who did participate in this, and that Miley Cyrus herself has leaned in. We have seen so many actors and entertainers over the years become identified with something they did early on in their career and spend the rest of their career getting abrasive about it, trying to distance themselves. And she didn't. As Kate Dellis pointed out in our meeting yesterday, she's, just like her godmother, been very Dolly Parton about this in just making this fun and lovely and collaborating. And it's really, it's great to see this moment.
Well, a couple of things. I was not a Hannah Montana person either, though I was very aware of the weight of the cultural impact on a lot of people. I was not aware that it had become a special touch point for kids that felt like they had to live in two worlds for real. So we've learned that kids who code switched every day, who were different races and ethnicities and or gay, felt like, by her representing her character as two people, that's how I feel, and I can relate in that way. But the intensity of the fandom is huge, and that's what came across. I watched the whole anniversary on Disney Plus and learned some things. First of all, I didn't know Selena Gomez was like a regular on the show, and Chappell Roan expressed her great admiration for her, or that Taylor Swift really, as she said, this was the kickoff of her career for real. So it was amazing to see Taylor Swift in that role. Now, I like the song "The Best of Both Worlds," by the way. I think it's really
I saw you just rocking out when we were playing it at the top of the show.
The lyrics are great, and she sings it well. And you're right about her embracing it. I'll say this last thing before James can weigh in, and that is several people who came to just help her celebrate said the hair, because the wig was, the way she's wearing her hair looked like kind of like the wig that she wore when she became the rock star, the hidden rock star, the secret rock star. And she said, no, it's all me. So she said, cut her hair in the style of Hannah Montana for real. So she's fully embraced in that way.
I'm like Jared. Hannah Montana is a blind spot for me, but late Miley, current Miley, I'm completely fascinated by. I mean, I think I think she's yet to make the great album. I think the Great Miley album is spread across her career, all the different projects she's done. She's done some nutty experiments. She worked with Flaming Lips. She produced the Dead Pets, that album. Some great songs on there. I think her voice is one of the great American voices, honestly. It sounds like she's lived through everything. And especially when you compare it to the Hannah Montana, to her little sort of, I mean, even then she sounded older than her years, but now she sounds older than everybody. But kind of powerful, like not wrecked, but kind of powerful,
Well, let's check in with a little bit of her voice now. Here's Miley Cyrus, her new song, Younger You, which she wrote for the Hannah Montana 20th anniversary special.
Nice.
I'm completely with you. I'm a huge Miley Cyrus fan. The Spotify Wrapped thing they do at the end of the year. I think the last 2 years it was going back to her Flowers song and album. I just listened. I think mine came with a little note. Haven't you moved on from from the first year? But she's incredible because she's always been this outsized artist and personality, especially in terms of her voice. But she's somebody who we've watched come through so much, like all of that farm team in the Disney trenches. Selena Gomez and Ryan Gosling, and I think he was part of that, wasn't he? He was part of that whole group that came up, maybe Ryan Gosling a little bit before, but through that current day studio system, or at least 20 years ago studio system, and we watched her come into her own, we watched her come apart with her father and then come back together again in the special. So I think all along she has not only been a beacon for people who try to find a way from the outside in because of the character they saw in Hannah Montana and that duality, but then they've stayed with her and they continue to support her, and she continues to be this beacon of strength for them, in addition to, as I said, this talent that she has.
Sorry, Callie.
No, I was going to say, I always loved Flowers, and I thought it was good. One of the things that she said, apropos to what you said at the outset about how sometimes, particularly child actors, really try to push away the image and that fandom that's attached to the childhood star. And Alex Cooper, who has the Call Her Daddy podcast, was interviewing her for the special and said, did it shape you in some way? She said, absolutely. And she said, I treasure the fact that at Disney, once you become a legend, you get a special parking space. So she has a Disney legend parking space, which she loves and embraces because she says, that means I did something.
Yeah. But that's also like psychological health to integrate.
Yes.
You know who you were and who you've been and where you've been and what you've had to do, right? I mean, that's how you make a complete character of yourself.
Well, in keeping with staying with something for 20-something years and how people stay with it or come apart, James, you were pointing out yesterday, there's also a new documentary out looking back at about, at this point, 30 years of Red Hot Chili Peppers, and you've just seen this new Netflix documentary, and we're looking at this concept of how we stay with music or we don't.
Right. It's a really good documentary. That's really interesting. It's about Hillel, or it centers on Hillel Slovak, who was the founder, one of the founder members. He was the guitarist of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and he became a heroin addict, and he overdosed and died, just as they were really on the kind of ascent. And then they carried on in various iterations, and it was it's a very moving documentary. They're very eloquent. The Chili Peppers, Anthony Kiedis, Flea, Jack Irons, the drummer, all of them. They speak very beautifully, very movingly about their friend and about how it felt to be in the band and what it meant to them. But I was struck. I mean, I don't tend to grow out of music. I tend to just accumulate more and more music, and like everything that I liked when I was 12, I still love ABBA, I still love I love Kintyre by Paul McCartney, all that stuff. But the Chili Peppers, weirdly, I just do not listen to anymore at all. I'm not quite sure why that is, but they're one of the only bands that I've left behind. Having said that, Flea, the bassist, is a very good writer, and his memoir came out a couple of years ago, Acid for the Children. That is a fantastic book.
Well, you prompted this little exercise within the show that we have from time to time, songs that stay with us, or in this case, don't stay with us. So have you moved completely off Red Hot Chili Peppers?
I mean, if I had a Spotify rap thing, it would just be a zero. There's nothing there. Yeah, I never listened to them.
So the team had this little exercise. They wanted to ask Callie and me what our songs are or groups are that we've moved away from, and I've never found that in my life, because I have the notion that if you have a song or a group or a person that you bond with, that for me it becomes imprinted in my DNA, and I feel like it becomes a soundtrack to my life. And I don't think there's anybody I've even cast off. I've had that exercise. Michael Jackson has done some things that I think we can all agree are pretty difficult. However, I just can't possibly separate his music from the biography, so he stays there too. So even when I make an attempt to possibly do that, Callie, what's been your experience?
Well, I have this similar experience to yours in that once I really love a song, then even if I don't listen to it for a long time and it annoyed me for a while, I can come back to it. But I differ with you on the Michael Jackson, and there's some other people I could name. They're great songs, but I cannot separate. And so, you could find my head bopping if I hear the first tunes, the first notes, and then I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. So there's not the same. I can't enjoy it. Yeah. So it's essentially done for me.
Yeah. I read a thing about Slayer. I love Slayer, the metal band, and it said you have to be a moral cretin to enjoy Slayer. So I was like, well, I must be a moral cretin because I love it.
Well, we welcome all types here on the Culture Show. Well, next, for 50 years, Saturday Night Live has turned American politics, celebrity, and culture into live wire comedy. Now the franchise has set up shop in Britain, where humor is drier, more deadpan, and more steeped in irony. The UK edition premiered last Saturday night, and the Sunday morning quarterbacking began immediately. If you want a little taste of SNL UK, here's a bit of Tina Fey's opening monologue from last Saturday's premiere.
Why do a UK version of SNL? Well, like so many large-scale American operations these days, no one really knows why. But here's what this is, okay? It is a sketch comedy show, and I'm so excited for you to meet your cast. They are wonderful. I can't even begin to understand them when they speak. One boy is either Scottish or choking.
I mean, if you start with Tina Fey, you can't possibly fail. And it's funny because I think she does have that sensibility too. She will go right for it. She's hilarious. So I watched a lot of this show this morning, and I thought it was really funny and really, really successful. Granted, they had a lot of time to prepare for this. So coming out of the gate, you want to have that clarity and be as sharp as possible. But I also felt like I saw, James, you can answer this better than I can based on who you are and where you grew up, but I felt like a very distinctive British sensibility came in from the outset, and it was quite delicious.
I would like to push back a little bit, Jared, on the idea that English humour is more steeped in irony. I mean, in the 90s, when I was flying back and forth to America to see my then girlfriend, now my wife, I was on Virgin America and we watched Seinfeld. That's what they would show you on the little screens, and I was dazzled by the sophistication of that, as were a whole generation of comedy types, and Larry Sanders as well. Gary Shandling's show, I forget what it's called, but the Larry Sanders show, I think. That was, I mean, Ricky Gervais would tell you that was a precursor of The Office. I watched the SNL UK thing too. I thought it was very funny. Or at least I laughed a lot. And those are two things that not always coexisted. But it's quite rude. I mean, it's quite obscene, which I enjoy. But that's a dialing up from the US version.
Well, it's interesting because I enjoyed it, and yes, there's a lot of language in there that is shocking to hear on what we would call mainstream.
We should point out that it's on the pay streaming or pay channel Sky TV, so it's not they're broadcasting.
Yeah, but we just wouldn't hear that,
right.
Here, and so it still is a little startling to hear that. But one of my problems with the SNL in America is that often they disintegrate, that's my word, to bathroom humor, which I detest. So I like some cleverness, some wit about it. If you want to throw an F word in there every now and then, if it's a little witty, I like it. And of course, I fell in love because Nicola Coughlan, who's the actress from Bridgerton, was part of the bit with Tina Fey at the Open, and she's from Bridgerton, and she's fabulous. And she asked an appropriate question, which is, why are you hosting it? You're an American. It should be somebody from the UK doing it, which I thought was great. So all the stuff that they did, all the touch points, I thought was interesting and funny. As we all know, the key with that show is to keep it up.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think it's interesting that they only have 8 episodes scheduled so far. I don't know if that's always the case. I certainly know that from our own PBS Masterpiece. It always comes in those around 6 to 8 episode range. We know that from other television. But James, just like you, I was quite struck. It's been a while since I've stayed up to watch Saturday Night Live, I have to say. But I was quite struck at how pointed it was, how political it was, how politically incorrect it was. It felt very refreshing, I have to say, for how daring they were, and it was. I think maybe that's a model that can be shipped to be a full season long. That's a lot of shows you're creating from September to April or May, and maybe if you just refine it and pare it down. But otherwise, if people haven't seen it yet, it's available on Peacock, and it's basically the same model, right down to nearly the same set that you find the opening monologue with the questions, the celebrities in the audience who are asking the questions or intervening, and then they have the weekend update, which is where I really laughed a lot. That's where I think I was most shocked. Did they really say that? Did they make those jokes about Prince Andrew or the Epstein files and other things that I feel I can't even recreate here?
Just one last thing I would say is, like the original SNL, it's all these fairly unknown comics. So it'll be fascinating to see them grow their career, because this is a perfect stage for them.
Yeah. I mean, that was interesting, wasn't it? Because you're watching it and you're thinking, he's going to be the one, or she's going to be the one, because some of them are going to really break out.
And that's what, in a lot of the coverage I saw, that's what people were talking about, was doesn't seem to be a lot of opportunity for breakouts in England, that a lot of people become ensconced and then they're cast over and over again. So this will be, I guess, going back to the Disney method of bringing in really young talent and having them in the farm league and then rise up and become stars. But it was kind of fun to play the same game. We're going to be seeing a lot more of this person. Well, coming up, a Silicon Valley shakeup. Meta and YouTube are slapped with a landmark verdict. Jurors found their platforms are engineered to keep users hooked. Is big tech having its big tobacco moment? That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Arun Roth. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, the Boston Red Sox won their first game of the season yesterday. Now it's opening day for their top minor league team, the Woo Sox. And this week's Joy Beat, one close to my heart, celebrating the man who brings the best Indian classical music to intimate venues in Lexington. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Boston Ski and Tennis, helping families stay active and outdoors this spring. Offering a wide range of tennis and pickleball products and services. With locations in Newton and Westboro or online at bostonskiandtennis.com. And GM Roth Design Remodeling, providing custom kitchens, bathrooms, and accessory dwelling units. Their design team works to create living-in-place solutions tailored to the needs of each home and family. More information at gmroth.com. And the Boston Youth Symphony Orchestras presenting Spring Fanfare, an afternoon of family activities, performances, and hands-on instrument demos. March 28th at 2 at the BYSO Youth Center for Music, bysoweb.org.
The trusted local news you rely on, in your pocket. The GBH News app brings you curated coverage so you can focus on the issues that matter most. Download it today on the App Store and Google Play.
Welcome back to The Culture Show. I'm Jared Bowen, live from the GBH studio at the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. I'm joined by Culture Show co-host Callie Crossley and James Parker, a staff writer at The Atlantic. He also runs the Black Seed Writers Group, a weekly writing workshop for homeless, transitional, and recently housed writers. And he edits The Pilgrim, a literary magazine from the homeless community of downtown Boston. If you're just tuning in, we're going over the latest arts and culture headlines, which includes big tech. Meta and Google lost a landmark case this week that addressed social media addiction. A California jury found their platforms, including Instagram and YouTube, were guilty of engineering design features that are addictive and result in mental health distress. The plaintiff, a now 20-year-old woman, was awarded some $6 million in damages. Observers say this could ultimately play out just as the big tobacco cases of the 1990s did. Here is the plaintiff's attorney, Mark Lanier, announcing the verdict on Wednesday after the verdict was announced, saying the companies will pay $6 million again in damages to his client.
You know, if you're 35 years old and you get addicted to YouTube and Instagram, well, shame on you. But to take that preteen, to take that teenager whose mind is still developing, and to be fully aware of how you can use a casino effect, which is what the YouTube documents talk about, using a casino effect on a young, developing mind. That's outrageous, and I think that we'll get some responses.
Well, why this is so significant is not only that a jury found that, yes, this is indeed all happening, because they had Mark Zuckerberg on the stand, they had documents to go through, but this now paves the way, or at least possibly sets a precedent for thousands of trials that are going to come after this. We see and have talked about on this show everything that's being done to try to stem the negligible effect on children, where we see other European countries taking this up and how to put guardrails up. We see Australia banning them, and now it could be that these companies are going to have to follow the same path as big tobacco in the 1990s, where basically the lawsuits brought down big tobacco. That's where we got the warnings. That's where they had to pay out billions of dollars. That's why this is so consequential, because people will look at this and say, well, $6 million is absolutely nothing to these companies, which are generating billions of dollars, literally billions of dollars by the quarter. But when you pile up the lawsuits, this could change everything.
Well, that's one of the reasons why they are going to fight tooth and nail. They said right at the outset that they're going to appeal the cases, and you better believe they're going to, with everything that they have in them, because they don't want even a little teeny encroachment like this to suggest that their product is addictive. If you go back to the history of the tobacco trials and all of the investigative work that went to try to connect that linkage between addiction and tobacco. Remember, what finally overturned that was the finding of those documents. Now, there's a little history to that, many histories we could talk about with that. And now we have some of the documents already from them. their words saying, yeah, we could do this, but we know this will probably work better to keep people online. I mean, I don't know how you fight against that. You wrote it, you said it, your research, which is how these lawsuits came to be won. So back to your point about how little money that is, yeah, it's little money, but it definitely makes a huge impact if it's allowed to stand, and they don't intend to allow it to stand. I would urge people, I just looked at a documentary not long ago about the efforts by all of these people in these 1,500 lawsuits with these families, with these tragic deaths of young people. There are a lot of them out there, and the stories are heartbreaking, but it's happening constantly. So if you think those parents are going to give up, you're sadly mistaken too. So this is going to be something to watch.
I was struck hearing the lawyer. I mean, I'm very glad he won his case, but I didn't know why he had to shame 35-year-old people who are addicted to YouTube, because there are plenty of them, and everybody has that little addict inside them. I know I do. I mean, I'm going to show you my flip phone now. It's not very impressive for listeners. This is how I protect myself against all that stuff, and it doesn't work. But in a way, it obviously legally one needs the documentation to prove that they're consciously monetized. I just read a book about the 7 deadly sins, and they basically monetized every single one of the 7 deadly sins. Sloth, avarice, anger, envy, lust, all of them. They've got them all in a big stew, and they're hauling the money out of it. So in that sense, no judgment could be too punitive. But in a way, we don't need the documentation, because we already know. Everybody knows how it feels. Everybody knows what it feels like. I was in a YouTube rabbit hole, whatever. That's 2 hours of your life just gone, and it's not unpleasant. It's not unentertaining, but there it goes. That's at the most minor end of it.
Well, for me, it's been fascinating to understand through these documents, which the jurors were also considering, just exactly how they engineer this through the auto-scrolling, through the autoplay, through the recommendations, how they just have refined and refined and refined the algorithms to make to work in our minds, and they understand the neuroscience behind our brains to make this a trigger for us to consume. I was, James, like you, I was struck, why did he take out 35-year-olds? Because this really affects all of us. Yes, children most especially, because they are most susceptible.
I was wondering if that was a way of framing his case particularly. Do you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't he's speaking to your point about there's going to be an avalanche of claims, and he wants to keep it with the teens, because that might be more provable, perhaps.
But also, children also have I think a bigger impact from the public response. And the public will be in the jury seats.
Yeah, quite right.
Yeah.
And this follows, of course, the lawsuit a day earlier in New Mexico, which found that a trial which found that Meta didn't protect children from child predators, which resulted in a $375 million verdict. We know how the court system plays out, so by no means does this mean that the $375 million will go in that case, or the $6 million will go in the case that we've been talking about. Also, that there was a settlement by TikTok and Snap, which owns Snapchat, because they didn't even want to get to this point where they would be front and center like Google and Meta now are, because Google owns. And yes, we're going to see this atrocious battle as they bring everything to the fore, because so far they've been essentially able to control government, to keep government outside of this, the U.S. government, that is, not the governments in Europe and elsewhere. But this is coming from the ground up, and this is so much more difficult to avoid.
Also, Meta, through these particular lawsuits, has been accused of 70% of the addictive protocols. 70% of the addictive protocols come from Meta. I would also say that the folks that settled really are not interested in the discovery process, as we know, which is when the real stuff comes out, because you got to give up to the other lawyers all of the documents, all of the research, and the stuff that we now know about Meta through whistleblowers. So, yeah, somebody's going to give it up at some point.
Recall the Live Nation documents we were just talking about, where the executives were saying, can't believe those morons, meaning us, are paying for VIP parking or this feature or that feature that essentially amounts to nothing. Right. Well, next, the debut of the novel Shy Girl in England was marketed as horror, but the real shock may be the fight over who or what wrote it. After readers raised alarms that the prose sounded AI-generated, publisher Hachette pulled the book's U.S. release and halted its UK run. The author, Mia Mia Ballard, denies using AI herself, but the controversy is forcing publishing to confront a bigger question. Will the ghost writer in the machine plague the whole industry? So to play out her defense a bit more, Mia Ballard, who self-published this novel, then it took off, it got published to some success, not huge success in England, but enough that she had her own contract for here in the United States. She said that she brought in an editor who then used AI, but it wasn't her who used AI. So I think this is another beginning. We talk endlessly now on this show, because AI is so much a part of our lives, that the publishers have it in their contracts with authors that you have to disclose if you use artificial intelligence in writing in any capacity. And it'll get trickier and trickier, I think, to discern that.
Yeah, you're on the front lines over here, Mr. Writer. So how do you feel about it,
Mr. Published Writer?
Yeah, exactly.
No,
yeah.
I don't know how I feel. I mean, I feel like I can detect AI. Like when I'm given a piece of writing now, I feel like I can smell AI. But I also feel that situation is not going to obtain for long. So quite soon it's going to be undetectable, and because it will be absorbing the more creative, idiosyncratic ends of the spectrum too. I'm just going to tell my AI story. Everybody's got one, but about a month ago, somebody wasn't texting me back, and I thought, am I being ghosted? And then I was thinking about the whole idea of ghosting and being ghosted, and I thought, I tell you who would write a brilliant poem about being ghosted: Emily Dickinson. She would have been the absolute high priestess of that condition, that kind of very anxious, facing the void kind of condition. So I went into ChatGPT and said, please write a poem, my name's James, please write a poem in the style of Emily Dickinson about being ghosted. What it spat back at me in 0.2 seconds was the most perfect. I consider myself a pretty good parodist, pastiche type of person, but this would have taken me 3 weeks and it wouldn't have been as good. And it was perfect. So then I wrote back to it and I said, oh my God, what is the point of any of us writing anything if you can do this? And at that point it began to condescend to me, and it said, oh James, what a human question.
Wow.
Of course I can do this, but you have all the longing and the confusion. I was like, oh my God, I'm being patronized
by a machine.
By a machine. So
Yes.
I switched off. I mean, there's no question that it's more intelligent than me, so I have to fall back on my eccentricities basically. And that I think will end up being the dividing line.
Yes.
There's going to be writing that sounds individual, personal, slightly mental, and there's going to be all the other stuff which will have this kind of patina of efficiency and communicability in it. Yeah.
Well,
just great noise.
I know.
It's so dispiriting.
It is dispiriting.
It is dispiriting. I was looking at a report on CBS, and they were talking about that relative to this case, somebody fed in the pages into some AI detector. I don't know which one. And it came back that it was however much, 95% AI. And they said really when it got down to it is because the writing was too perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
But she's arguing, wait a minute, okay, if you don't think I can write like that, but give me another shot here. I actually did do it. I mean, she could be lying, I don't know. But I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
That it's the perfection that the AI detectors are picking up on. And so I don't know how that works with every piece of material.
Well, I just went to a totally sci-fi dystopian place, which I don't think is sci-fi or dystopian, which is what if the AI is governing the AI detection, which is going to be happening pretty quickly. Then it controls everything.
Yes.
Right.
Then we can't answer these
questions. Don't worry about
questions.
that. That's completely original.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right, exactly.
I mean,
Stop fussing.
Every time we have one of these discussions on the show, I just think how people are going to laugh at us. I used to think it would be 20 years from now. Now it'll be probably 3 years from now. How naive we all were that we were talking about how wondrous this is or how scary it all is, and how could this possibly be when this is going to be the norm.
This is how old I am. I wrote a piece for the Boston Globe about this fascinating new thing called YouTube. It just came out, and it's great. You can go on there and you can find your favorite Thin Lizzy song, and there's videos of people punching each other in the face. Anyway,
there we go.
The worst one this is way back in the Greater Boston days with Emily Rooney days, and I did a stand-up holding up an iPad
Wow.
If we still had them. I held up a BlackBerry and a laptop, and it said, this is all going to come together in a brand new phone that Apple is introducing. So embarrassing.
Well, they did it.
I'm sure I'm turning red right now, because why would I out myself in that way? Humiliating. Well, we'll change gears now to move on to the legacy. Only an actual let me start. See, this is why we need AI.
Yeah.
AI can read a sentence, Jared. We're moving to the legacy only an actual writer can create. Tracy Kidder died this week at 80. He was a Pulitzer Prize-winning master of narrative nonfiction, bringing the sensibility of a novelist to real-life stories of craft, conscience, and commitment. From The Soul of a New Machine, in which he followed the engineers racing to build a computer, to Mountains Beyond Mountains, in which he traced Dr. Paul Farmer's work in Haiti, Kidder was often drawn to people under pressure and to the systems, demands, and decisions that shape them. In his books, always he could bring us right into those scenarios, the scenarios that most of us would just walk by, the building of a house, for example, and not have any capacity to understand. There's a whole story, not just a story, but layers and deep depths of layers of stories there. But this is what he did. This is why he was so skilled. James, he was a friend of yours.
He was. I got to know Tracy. We weren't close friends, but we really liked each other. I got to know him during the writing of when he was researching his last book, Rough Sleepers, because he visited the Black Seed Writers Group, the group of homeless writers that I'm involved with. He loved the Black Seed Writers. He loved the whole vibe. He was an extremely wonderfully open man, as you can tell from his books and from his style. Actually, I mean, there's something he's like a classic American style. I think it's almost transparent. Or you think it's transparent, but then when you actually hold it up to the light, it's kind of prismatic. You see all sorts of things coming through, all sorts of angles. And anyway, we met then, and we went out for lunch afterwards. And he was the kind of, the book Rough Sleepers, incidentally, is about Dr. Jim O'Connell, who's another one of my heroes, founder of Boston Healthcare for the Homeless. So Tracy, followed Jim for years, and the book is a kind of pageant, a kind of bio tapestry of 40 years of homeless life in Boston. And he was a lovely man to be with. I mean, that's, people say that, don't they? That what you remember of people is not what they do, but the feeling that they gave you. And he gave me a beautiful feeling.
Well, I certainly have had some interactions with him, though very minor, but I was most taken with his ability to move from The Soul of a New Machine, which felt so revelatory to me, to Mountains Beyond Mountains, the quest of Dr. Paul Farmer, who people around here know as a founder of Partners in Health, and his way of talking about Farmer's quest, his mission, his passion, but without making him a saint. Now, we imbued that on Dr. Farmer, but that's not how he wrote him. And I mean, that's really mastery, to tell someone's story and to tell the meaning of their lives in such a rich way. So that book really is one of my favorites of his, but he was just quite an amazing writer. It really was.
And I love that. From what I read, I never interacted with him, but he resisted labels, started off maybe trying to be in the vein of Truman Capote, at least that's what he was told he should probably do, but then really came into his own, and this is where the great people succeed, people who have the courage of their own convictions, and that you don't have to follow somebody else's path, that you can create something that is all your own, that you can create journalism or nonfiction, a term I understand he didn't really like very much, because you wanted bring in those fiction storytelling methods to your true journalism in understanding feeling, in addition to having a pretty objective viewpoint and clarity in surveying a situation, all to make these really incredible stories that just pull people in. And again, the stories that people would mostly not really pay attention to, he made them pay attention.
And I mean, especially with Mountains Beyond Mountains and the book about Dr. Jim, I mean, he was so passionately interested in people, kind of the behind, right. Okay, you're doing all this great stuff. Why are you doing all this great stuff? What is driving you? And it's not all good. It's never all good. What drives us to do great stuff is never all good. You have to bring in all the complicated bits of yourself, all the nasty bits of yourself, and kind of point them at this objective. And if you successfully do that, then you're going to get something done. But just his way of going through, the kind of screen and into the interior was, beautiful.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, coming up, late-night host and Tolkien superfan Stephen Colbert reveals his post-Late Show plans. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The diamond giant De Beers got rich by owning mines in southern Africa. Now the company is up for sale, and the countries where those mines operate, like Botswana, see an opportunity to reclaim their natural resources.
Botswana is saying we want to have a stake or control in the minerals that we mine.
That's next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Cambridge School of Culinary Arts in Porter Square, offering private cooking events for your next team-building activity, family reunion, birthday party, or night out. You can learn more at cambridgeculinary.com.
And the Boston Speakers Series announcing its upcoming season at Symphony Hall for 7 evenings, including Pete Buttigieg, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, historian Doris Kearns Goodwin, and former U.S. Ambassador to China Nicholas Burns. BostonSpeakers.org. And Rogers Fish Company, major sponsor of the Catching the Codfather podcast with Ian Coss. A bonus episode is available on April 1st on gbhnews.org or wherever you get your podcasts. More at rogersfishco.com.
GBH Daily is a newsletter that keeps you informed, connected, and ready to go every weekday morning. You can subscribe today and get it in your inbox at gbh.org/daily.
I'm Jared Bowen. If you're just tuning in, this is The Culture Show, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. I'm joined by co-host Callie Crossley and James Parker, a staff writer at The Atlantic. We're going over the latest headlines in our Arts and Culture Week in Review, which includes Stephen Colbert. He's heading to Middle-earth, and not just to quote Elvish on Late Night. The Tolkien obsessive revealed this week he's co-writing a new Lord of the Rings film, evolving from superfan to steward of one of the most treasured mythologies in popular culture. Colbert's devotion to the Tolkien verse is so ardent. In 2021, he marked the 20th anniversary of the Lord of the Rings film trilogy with his very own rap song.
Lord of the Rings #1 trilogy of all time. It's the #1 trilogy, the #1 trilogy. Try to deny and you just sound silly. Worldwide gross of almost $3 billion. 16 times what they made on Free Willy. You whales! Best triple feature, hell yeah, we would win it. We got the only trilogy with everything in it. Don't believe me? You could check for yourself. The Godfather doesn't even have one. No CGI.
So, he is winning here. If you watch The Late Show, you understand that he is steeped in this and has been very, very long time, to the exclusion of any athletic ability or varsity sports in his childhood or JV sports, because he has always been in this world. And so this is the first thing he's actually announced since we learned that The Late Show will be ending in May, of course, canceled by CBS. So he called up Peter Jackson, and they announced this week that they're going to mine the first few chapters to go into the past in this trilogy.
What was interesting to me is that he had been talking with Peter Jackson about this for a time, and they come up with this piece that Peter had not addressed. This is, by the way, not the same thing as the Andy Serkis one that's coming out in 2027. This would be after that. They would be working on it. So that says to me that he was hosting and kind of working on this, and then as circumstances changed for him, he realized, I have something else I can do that I'm really into, and I'll put my full force and interest into that. And he's got a son who's a writer as well, so this is all perfect. And I have to say, just thinking about it as a viewer of the films, I mean, it's quite a task. That's not usually my jam, this kind of films, but when they came out, I was sick. And so I had it on a loop. I kept going to sleep and waking up. And so I really had a chance to look at them in great detail. I was like, wow, this is incredible how they put this all together. So it's quite something to take on the task of to be a part of that, to add to that. I wish him well.
I wish him well too. I mean, there's there's a first sight you might think there's something heretical about generating more stories out of the Tolkien world, or something kind of industrial about it. But I mean, in fact, Tolkien built his world so meticulously, and it's so structurally sound, and it goes so deep that there's a lot more that could be got out of it with the right approach, a respectful approach, which I'm sure he has. He's a Catholic too, Colbert, and there's a lot of Catholic stuff in Tolkien. Tolkien was a very, very Orthodox Catholic, so I'm sure that's not ungermane.
Well, if there's any question that he is the man for the job, here's Colbert on Late Night with Conan O'Brien in 2006, flexing his fantasy muscles with a little bit of high Elvish.
I will just say this to you, Conan. Ellen Silla Lumen Omentielvo. Or don't you speak Quenya? No one speaks High Elvish in this room? These are not my people. I said a star shines on the hour of our meeting, Conan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's talked about the fact that he will be very faithful to the books and the films, talking about high industry there. But also, he is somebody who returns to these very, very frequently. So this has become, I keep using the word layered today for some reason, but this is more layered for him. Every time, we talk about this on the show too, the older you get, the more Catholic you get perhaps, you have a deeper understanding, and you go back and revisit this seminal work in your life, and you find more and more and more. There's this great story about him being in a trivia match with the co-writer of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and he beat her. So in terms of knowing his facts, so there is probably nobody better. We don't know what his skills as a writer are necessarily in the screenwriting format, but it seems like this is a really good mix.
Yeah, his son knows that. I mean, I think this is also a story that's a bit broader than that. It's about pivoting, and pivoting well. I always get mad at these people that have 5 or 6 different skills, daggone it, and can do excellent work in any of these arenas. But I'm very admiring of that, is to take your skill in this place over here and then apply it to something you're quite passionate about. So I expect it to be quite good.
I mean, you could put some jokes in there. Tolkien was not very funny.
So now we're going to interrupt the industrial project.
But also, just that clip you played about, I mean, Quenya, that's the whole language. That's what Tolkien did. He was a philologist originally. He invented languages. That was his great hobby and his passion. So Elvish is it's not just a bunch of little noises. There is a whole language there.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about.
Well, if the humans develop the language,
and
AI doesn't get a hold of the language,
I knew we were going to go there.
We're all okay.
Yeah.
Well, just a few blocks away from Colbert's Late Show studio, tempers are flaring behind the scenes at the August Wilson Theater, where it seems the new play Dog Day Afternoon is living up to its subject matter. The 1975 film has been adapted for a new Broadway production, but a week before opening night, Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright Stephen Adly Gurgis was barred from rehearsals after a standoff with the producing team. I don't know that I've ever heard something like this happening, at least in modern time. I'm sure this has happened before, but usually it doesn't make its way into the New York Times.
I know.
So basically what happens is these shows come together, they're rehearsed, and then they go into previews, and this was during the preview process where, yes, audiences are buying tickets, and then every night into the wee hours, the writers gather, or in this case, the one writer gathers to rewrite based on notes from the director, notes from the cast, audience response. And at some point, there became this big divide between the playwright, who's, again, a Pulitzer Prize winner, and I was going to say the studio, again, industrial complex, because Warner Brothers is behind this theatrical venture to adapt this film. And it seems to have been around tone. As we know, the film is pretty serious. This seemed to be a little more lighthearted, which is kind of difficult to imagine, but also the running time. He had to excise a lot because we know audiences don't want to sit in a theater for a long time, and now we're all talking about it.
Well, I am so nosy. Oh, I would love to know exactly. But this is what I imagine. Here is Stephen, the writer, going through his preview process, taking notes, revisiting it. He knows this material inside out. And here are the money people. Why don't you just have him go out through that door? And I would say Stephen's response was, "Why don't you get out of this store and leave me alone?"
Yeah.
And there you have it.
Yeah.
You know?
I totally agree.
just leave me alone.
Yeah. I mean, the key word here, I mean, I don't think this is, I think this did happen, but it's also a beautiful story, really good publicity for this thing, because the key word here is standoff. I mean, the whole of Dog Day Afternoon is an immense freak out of a standoff. Al Pacino raving in the doorway of the bank and shouting Attica, and the whole of Brooklyn's about to pop. So the idea that there's that there's some kind of massive confrontation and tempers are flaring, and that's really good. There's two brilliant actors in this production.
Yep.
John Bernthal and Eben Moss-Bachrach. I mean, they are heavyweights, both of them. So I would love to see this. I'm a huge fan of the movie. Who isn't?
Well, just recently on the show, we were talking about how Broadway is really struggling and plays are really, really expensive to mount in New York, which is why there's so many are being mounted in England right now. The ticket prices are cheaper there. They're more expensive in New York, which is another reason that plays aren't doing as well. So they just got all of this. It costs nothing to plant this story and have everybody talking about it now, have everybody even more aware. And this is what Michael Paulson, formerly of the Globe, who was writing about this in this New York Times piece, said that the show is selling really well, even in previews, because it hadn't even officially opened yet, and already it's one of the higher grossing shows on Broadway right now. So they're getting butts in seats, as they say.
Well, it doesn't hurt that Eben Moss-Bachrach is from The Bear and very well known from The Bear. I think that doesn't hurt at all. Also, the production company or the group of producers, I don't know who the exact executives who he wanted to get thrown out of the rehearsal were, but they're pretty well known. So I looked them up. They've produced a lot of other plays, so you would think that this kind of process is not unfamiliar to them, and they know when to be quiet and when to say something or how to say it to a prickly playwright, so that you wouldn't send them off. So that's what makes it even more interesting, because somebody really put their foot in their mouth.
Well, Burgess has typically written his own independent works. This is the first one where he's adapting material in a major way. So yes, maybe you do have the Warner Brothers people coming in saying, we have some license here to talk to you about this story because it's not entirely your own.
I mean, it's I think it's great for right now as well. Dog Day Afternoon is like a classic American text of social, apocalypse.
Yeah, as a bank robber who's robbing the bank to have money to pay for his partner's gender transition surgery. This was in the 1970s, and here we are.
Al Pacino played the part. That's why just based on what we know, I would not be a fan of it being more comedic.
Oh, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. It's a very heavy film.
Yeah.
Very sad.
And so if that's what the producers were, come on, just a little bit more levity.
Yeah.
I can see a playwright going, get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. I'll shut the door on you. Thank you very much. Well, now for our weekend preview with a rundown of the arts and culture events we are looking forward to. Callie, what's on your list?
I am so excited to bring to everybody's attention again the 9-play cycle of the 9-series play cycle for the Ufot family, written by Nigerian-American playwright Mfaniso Udafia, and the final performance of Lifted, which is the 7th of the 9 in the series, is at Wellesley on Sunday night. This has been the kind of preview work in progress we were just discussing going on with Dog Day Afternoon. So all of the performances, they have a talk back with the audience, they make comments, she goes back, takes some notes, revises, and then the actors have a revised performance the next time. So this is the final of this series of revisions going on. It centers on the 3rd generation of Ufots. This is Toyima Ufot, who's a Harvard scholar accused of plagiarizing her deceased father's work. I want to say this. If you've not seen any of the ones before, it's okay. They each stand alone. If you have seen the rest, you'll recognize some Easter eggs in there and some other linkages, but you will not be affected by just seeing this. I've seen it once in the early preview, and I'm going to see the last performance, and it was mind-blowing. I thought, this is a preview? This looks like it's finished to me. It's really good.
I'll echo that. As somebody who's seen so many of these plays, it's wonderful to follow this family. James, what are you pointing us towards?
I would like to take this opportunity, if I may, to trail reading that the Black Seed Writers Group, the homeless writers group that we've been talking about a little bit, we're doing a reading at the Brookline Booksmith on April the 1st, which is Wednesday night, 7 p.m., And we haven't done normally we do reading kind of every 6-7 months. We haven't done a reading now for a while. So there's a lot of backed up excitement, backed up energy. Just to give people some idea of what happens, there's probably 20, 25 readers. They each have a piece. We just go ripping through it. The variety of tones, the variety of emotions, the variety of personalities is pretty head-spinning and deeply edifying, I would suggest. So please come and see us. Brookline Booksmith, 7 p.m. Wednesday night, April Fool's Day.
Sounds really wonderful. And I will point people toward the Boston Symphony Orchestra and Symphony Hall. I know that the BSO has been in the news for a lot of negative things of late, but people should be very mindful of their programming, and they have an exceptional one right now. They have Nixon in China, which is John Adams' opera written in 1987, so 15 years after Nixon was in China. John Adams kind of, in a major way, changed opera and the stories that American opera could tell in documenting Nixon's trip there and giving us a perspective of the public figure and the private lives behind. So you have Renee Fleming, hugely, of course, acclaimed opera star, playing Pat Nixon, and you have Thomas Hampson, who is playing Richard Nixon, with selections from the opera. It opened last night, and it's playing this weekend, so it's very worth your while to go over and see these major opera stars in town right now, with Andres Nelson's conducting. And I will also just take host prerogative for a moment to mention that Billy Collins, the great poet, will be in town at the JFK Library on Monday talking about his new book, Dog Show. Poems about dogs. It's really lovely, especially if you love animals and you love dogs. He captures them in a brilliant way. He will read from the book. He'll be in conversation with me, actually, and so this is happening on Monday night, and this event at the JFK Library is free, so just register for tickets and come over and see that.
I would say he's one of those poets that people who think they don't like poetry like him.
Yeah, love his poetry. And of course, National Poet Laureate, so a chance to see him. Well, James Parker, it is very fun to have you here with us today. We look forward to seeing you more.
Was that okay?
Yeah.
We'll talk after. No, thanks. You're brilliant. We will keep you. Thank you for listening to another edition. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Culture Show. Tune in Monday for retired FBI agent Jeffrey Kelly on his new book about the Gardner heist, a case he worked for 22 years. Plus, we'll have all the news and excitement to come out of PAX East here in Boston from our man on the inside. Callie, what's coming up on Under the Radar?
We are doing a Massachusetts news roundtable, and we're talking about Linco Industries that has the biggest ice contract in the state, for one thing, and worrying whether or not Hampshire College will be accredited again, because they're right on the brink, and the decision will come in June. So there's a lot of other interesting stories going on like that.
Well, thank you, everyone who came down to the library to see us today. And we have a very special thank you for Anna who is our intern this semester. She has been a supernal intern. She is amazing. Her story ideas that she has generated, her dedication to this show, she has really been a standout. Today is her last day. We thank her, and we will miss her, but I have no doubt we are all going to be reading her and knowing her in journalism for years to come. I'm Jared Bowen. Have a culture-filled weekend.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Where's Mary? Where is she? Where is she? She's just about to close up the library.